played between Grubby and Happy when Blizzard released the newest patch, and unfortunately it broke something with the ladder system on Battle.net, and so we had a lot more custom games coming in, and Happy and Grubby decided to play a best of 7 series, and we're gonna go through all of these games today. It was a pretty epic series. Don't know all of the games, but I'm not gonna spoil anything here, but just to give you a bit of an idea what we're looking at here right now, we have Happy currently being just the top dog when it comes to ladder play in WarCraft 3 right now. We're having him with 1,118 wins on his account, and he only has 17 losses. Has actually gotten 3 more losses over the last 5-6 days, mostly struggling against Orc a little bit, but this is a 99% win rate that guy has, so it's absolutely crazy. He's level 63 right now, he is the uncontested #1 on Northrend, and it's absolutely nuts. Grubby, on the other hand, also playing a ton since he started swapping over to WarCraft 3. Has several accounts, all of them high level up, plays all of the races. His main account at this point is on level 44, very high up in the top 10 as well on Northrend. Has 362 wins on the account and 66 losses, which leaves him with an 85% win rate. And again, this is only one of many, many accounts that he has. Currently seeing a Farseer, first for Grubby. So we have seen a lot of variation, of course, with Farseer or Blade Masters being played early. With Farseer, you oftentimes want to harass a lot more heavily. We have seen, for example, a lot of Farseer openings into extremely fast tech, sometimes even before the barracks. This is one of the things that we've seen in the previous cups as well. And so we're going to check out a little bit how that works out for him. Echo Isles is map #1. On the side of Happy, we have an opening with a graveyard early, so we're going to see the early fiends for him. The Death Knight also being put into place here. And we have 2 more relics now in the back for the early access to the Rod of Necromancy. And when it comes to items and like the race-specific shops, then Rod of Necromancy is definitely like the go-to item. If you're an Undead player, you always want to make sure that you buy that up and that you are just like triggering that through all the fights while you're creeping as well. And for Grubby here with a creep spot, already we're seeing him with a bit of a stats boost, getting the Circlet of Nobility here. Good item for him. And Happy, of course, is already starting to lure some of those creeps over into range as well. Timing that then also just to get a bit of extra damage in. So just like pulling the creeps and then on the retreat, getting a few extra hits in with the Fiend. Helps him to creep that spot a little bit faster. He has a slightly delayed altar here as well, so Death Knight comes out, immediately also Dust of Appearance, Rod of Necromancy, and starts right away to make his play here and get some experience for himself. Now Grubby in the meantime is also creeping, and you can already see that he has a really far forward shop here. Now that's a couple of advantages and disadvantages you have with that. First of all, this is of course easily accessible to him right now, especially when he is trying to expand, for example. He can always just like walk back a little bit, get additional items. It's great for scouting as well. He will see if someone comes here from the right side. One of the downsides is though, it's really heavily exposed. So at any point we could see Happy just move over and take that down, and then Grubby is without a shop. So then he would have to rebuild one in the base. But as a scouting tool for him, it's pretty fantastic, gives him early warning, and also has an easier access for him towards drop items if he just wants to head back real quickly during a fight or creeping and just get something there. Already very aggressive creep from Grubby here, right at the shop, so the 2 middle spots that we're seeing up to the top at the marketplace and down here at the shop, very exposed of course, so oftentimes you see players focusing a bit more on their side of the map. But Grubby moves out right away, starts to take this one out, gets the extra experience, whereas Happy is currently creeping on the right side of the map. Gloves of Haste for him. And we're seeing in the meantime Grubby now grabbing his own item. And he actually gets sentry wards. So a lot of vision already for him. Places one around the shop. That's fantastic for him. Has a lot of shop vision here. Another one up to the top would be great as well. Basically covering all of the paths from the left to the right side of the map. Has a Staff of the Teleportation now too. And this is already indicating that he wants to heavily be aggressive with just attacking his opponent's economy. We have tech into tier 2, so if Grubby can snipe a couple of Acolytes here, then Happy can't even rebuild them. And Grubby himself, of course, also teching straight into the next structure. Happy was still trying to creep here, finds another Gloves of Haste, and here comes Grubby. Immediately with the Scroll of Speed, chain lightning onto the Acolytes and trying to take them down. Happy is halfway through with the tech to tier 2 and immediately starts microing them away, trying to save the Acolytes. Coil coming through, but another chain lightning drops at least one, and Grubby has to move out with the Staff of Teleportation. So Happy, at the end of the day, losing 1 single Acolyte and now going to be mining from 4 and not 5. So a little bit of a downside here for him. when it comes to income. Has to wait out until the tier 2 tech is completed. But then again, lost only 1, which isn't really too bad considering if he would have lost more, then he might have had even to cancel. Here comes the expansion now, and exactly as I said before, if you have the shop here in the middle, the expansion makes a lot of sense. Whenever Happy, for example, starts attacking here, Grubby has now the option of just simply moving a little bit farther up and getting items at the shop here. That's going to be great for him. If the shop wasn't the main base, then it would be an issue. But then again, it is also exposed. Coil immediately onto Grubby's Farseer. Not only to add damage, keep in mind that Death Knight is just level 1, so the coil only does 75 hit points of damage against the hero, because of the 25% damage reduction that heroes have against spells. But at the same time, cancelled out the healing self and also the mana regeneration. So this is a huge plus that you have with that. So Happy checks that out and immediately realizes, okay, I can not only get some damage in, but at the same time I'm cancelling out the items that he has right now. So let's do that. That's still hashtag worth it. Outside of that, we're not really seeing too much aggression just now. We're having Grubby with the Shadow Hunter on the second tier, so that isn't really too much of a surprise. Beastery coming in, and traditionally against Undead what you see actually a lot is that we're having a Beastery being built and then also a Tauron Totem, so that you have Shadow Walkers with Spirit Link. Huge setup that you can have. Raiders in particular are fantastic when you can force fights around Fiends, and that's something that Grubby is definitely going to try and rely upon. But he's already attacking again. Scroll of Speed being used, Chain Lightning right away, level 3 by now on the Farseer, and so that is just a huge amount of damage. One Acolyte already about to go down, second one very likely to fall, gets another Chain Lightning in, Acolyte 2 is down, might even get a third, Coil Nova on the other hand on the Farseer, and Grubby's forced to use the Town Portal. Was starting with the Staff of Teleportation, and then once the Lich comes in and gets the Nova through, he realizes that he might actually die here, and immediately switches over to the Town Portal, which of course makes him invulnerable for the channeling process. So good attack initially from him, but losing the Town Portal, definitely a bit of a downside here. It's quite a bit of gold that he spends. Then again, he has an expansion. So from Grubby's perspective, it's important to buy time right now. He wants to buy time so that the expansion can be effective, that he gets a return of investment, and then he can trade Town Portals against Acolytes all day, because he knows through his superior income, he's going to be in a better position. We have Happy at 36 supply right now, and Grubby is sitting at 37, so very, very similar numbers when it comes to the unit count. But Happy is now creeping the marketplace, and he actually also bought 1 Claws of Attack, so he's triple Gloves of Haste right now, and a Claws of Attack on the Lich. And once we're hitting tier 3 for him, once he has the Black Citadel and gets access to the Rod of to the Orb of Corruption, it's going to be pretty great for him. Death Knight on level 3 also highly important. The Greater Mana Potion gives him another item that allows him to be aggressive, and he's going to try and use that now as much as he can. Already starting to rush down here, but Grubby has a Shadow Hunter on level 2. Great item for him as well, the Pendant of Energy. And now Happy realizing what's going on down here with the expansion. Grubby immediately loading the burrow with peons, but this is now where he has to defend here. He needs to use the chop as well, get a couple of potions here, repair on the burrow, and Grubby still about to finish this creep here, trying to get the extra experience for the Shadow Hunter as well. Level 3 would be fantastic for him. Gets a Claws of Attack +6 now too, and just simply trying to irritate Happy a little bit. The burrow is down though, and that exposes all of the peons, and this is a great chance for Happy to take a few of them down. Coil rattles through, 1 down, 2 down, gets the third, was about to, and that is definitely going to put a bit of a dent into the economy of the Orc player from the Netherlands. Level 2 on the Lich, and now Grubby done with the creep, has the first few raiders in the mix, and is starting to go for the defense here. Happy completely sieging up at that base though, and this is the time when Grubby really needs to turn this franchise around. 47 supply against 39 for Happy. Scroll of Speed already used, but massive pressure on the Shadow Hunter, who barely escapes for the time being. The Farseer also very, very low here, and has to back off, and Happy is using Burrow to save those fiends as much as he can. Raiders, of course, still a bit of a problem here. One Ensnare, one Entangle after another is coming in, locks them into place, and he's trying to get rid of the statues to make sure that Happy has no chance to sustain himself through that fight. Still, Lich at the same time here with the Frost Armor, and it's fantastic against Orc, slowing all these auto attacks down, but here comes the healing again, and Kodo Beast now in the mix as well, and immediately tries to snack and actually grabs the Fiend, even though it's already burrowed. Great move here also again. So Hungry Hungry Hippo being played. And we're still talking about Happy attacking, but he's starting to be pushed back here. 39 supply for him, 50 for Grubby, who's now taking full advantage of that extra income. Chain Lightning again coming through. Happy lost his statues, has another one now coming in. But this Orc army is starting to give him quite some trouble, and now the forced move back as the Death Knight finally bails out. Has to be careful, of course, as well, since there's Hex on the Shadow Hunter too. And with a good timing on the Hex, if you can shut the Death Knight down, that's a big victory already. But be it as it may, this fight already a huge win for Grubby right now. Fantastic start so far into the best of 7 for him. Looking great here with a Farseer nearly on level 4. Shadow Hunter closing in on 3. Has now also 2 potions of mana already that he bought. Probably gonna head one over pretty soon. Another barracks being produced here. Like, he's in a fantastic spot. Getting mass units out, more production, has great income. Still no upkeep for him. He's still sitting at 50 supply, so he's getting the full advantage out of the 2 mining bases that he has, whereas Happy just doesn't have anything. He has actually teched into tier 3, he's not expanding though. We're having now on the Death Knight no town portal, the Orb of Corruption is on the Lich, but Happy is definitely on a bit of a timer at this point. He's at 44 supply, he has the Dark Ranger now, and with that we're still seeing him with 1 Rod of Necromancy, might have a little bit more on the Lich, no, doesn't. No additional items, no Scrolls of Healing for him, no Town Portal. He has no Potions of Lesser Invulnerability. So it's really limited right now. He's heavily banking on the Lich's damage output, who's currently sitting at a plus 11, but a huge attack rate, of course, thanks to those 3 gloves of haste. But this attack has to be successful right now, and Destroyers are going to be crucial for it. And he's trying to do exactly that. Kodo Beast is already looking for another snack. 1 grunt going down, Nova coming through too. One of the focus here is going to be the Kodo Beast and the Raiders. He's trying to take the Raiders down as fast as he can. Farseer on level 4. The silence from the Dark Ranger, adding, of course, to the strain on the Orc player. Happy on 47 supply against Grubby's 49. The healing waves on the level 3 Shadow Hunter. Fantastic here. Lich already dropping low on mana. Grunt after Grunt is falling, but Happy is losing units as we speak. Another ensnare on the Destroyer, and that is an immediate kill against the magic immune unit here, and Happy has to bail out. Things are starting to look a little bit tricky for him. Grubby is still sitting at 49 supply, Happy still at 42 though. It's all down to the heroes right now. A Lich on level 3 would go a long way for Happy in this particular match now if he wants to break through that. It's not really untypical for Undead to stay on one base for a long time. Usually Undead tries to be effective through their tech advantage and through their high hero levels. And this is something that Happy is going to try and do. But he needs more experience, and it's tough to get when you are always forced into fights that are really disadvantageous for you. There's not a lot of camps left on the map either. We have the 2 turtle spots still remaining and 1 small tomb spot, and that's about it. Another ensnare coming in, and now Happy, of course, still has bits of mana left. Could try and get another quick kill in here. 1 grunt barely escaping. Destroyer needs a coil, moves back just in time. Not enough mana on the Death Knight either, and the healing waves are just coming through continuously. Another Chain Lightning comes in as well. Even a potion of mana left on the Shadow Hunter. Quick silence onto the Farseer, but outside of that, we're still seeing Happy just dancing, using that unholy aura, back and forth, kiting all the time, trying to get quick kills in, trying to go for that Kodo Beast again, dropping the Raider, level 3, finally on that Lich, huge now. But a double kill against the Fiends here as Grubby uses the Dust of Appearance, gets the vision in, and can take both of those Fiends down that just got burrowed right in front of him. So Happy falling down to 40 supply at this point in time. Grubby already crossing over into 66 and looking absolutely fantastic here right now. Adding Headhunters to the mix, having an armor upgrade now on his units as well, double Kodo Beast. Things are definitely looking good for him. Still not onto the tier 3 tech. Could of course do that later on too. Think about adding a 3rd hero. As we said before, he's looking currently great with that expansion. And is immediately putting that to some additional use by buying more items. We're seeing him now with the Scroll of Healing. The Shadow Hunter is, as we said before, on level 3. Even a Potion of Lesser Invulnerability now on the Farseer. The higher Undead heroes get, the more you want to start relying on Potion of Lesser Invulnerability if you have low HP heroes. And talking about heroes, Dark Ranger on level 2 gets a parry of Vitality. Could definitely hand that one over. And we're having, as said before, another turtle spot right over here. 1 tomb spot with the Murloc Nightcrawler. And another one to the left side where Grubby is currently active and is trying to level his Shadowhunter again. But Happy is now also just trying to do whatever he can to get those heroes a little bit higher. The Death Knight is not going to see level 5 anytime soon. Lich is on 3, but maybe leveling the Dark Ranger on 3, at least getting the Death Knight a bit closer to the Coil level 3 would be great for him. And with a bit of luck, you can also find a Tomb of Experience. I think he just did, didn't he? Dark Ranger just had a huge boost in XP, so it should have... I didn't see it, but it should have been a Tomb of Experience. Hasn't really crept this just yet, and Grubby knows it too. With a Farseer, of course, you have a fantastic scouting tool at your disposal as well, since you can send those wolves over the entire time. Grubby by now has hit 73 supply against the 53 for Happy, and now it's time for the nukes. Happy with a bit of a last-ditch attempt here. He needs to do at least some damage with this if he wants to have a fighting chance of coming back into this game. And Grubby doesn't give him the fight just yet. Moves back with the Scroll of Beast, abandons the expansion for just a second, and of course, with that magic damage, immediately the burrow goes down. No fortified upgrades here, so still heavy armored and can't take the pressure. Starting to go straight for the Headhunters, and Headhunters is something that Grubby adds more and more at this point. Massive Headhunter commitment by him. Wolves on the ground immediately dispelled by the Destroyers here as they're getting more mana for their Orb now too and dropping one raid after another. A bit of a backed up position for Grubby, but so far working out for him. The melee line has a tough time for Grubby to really get access here. The Frost armor is fantastic for the Death Knight, and those Destroyers are certainly doing work. One grunt after another goes down. The Headhunters were a little bit stuck in the back here, and those healing waves just didn't do enough. One unit after another falling, gets another raider here. Grubby is dropping very significantly. He's down to 55 supply right now. Experience tickling in for Happy as he's just racking through this, but the Lich is running out of mana. That's a massive problem. A couple of Novas against those Headhunters would be absolutely amazing, but he just doesn't get those through. The damage output on the Lich, though, is still insane, thanks to that attack rate that he has here. Level 4 Shadowhunter, still with a potion of mana. Farseer with a potion of mana as well. Grubby utilizing all that income for extra items the entire time, but he has lost a lot of units in that last fight, and that was quite a bit of experience for his opponent. But the Farseer also closing in on level 5, which would be great for those extra wolves, for the damage, for the invisibility. But we have Happy dancing away again. He did a huge amount of damage. He killed the entire front line. All those units were just going down. The raiders dropped, the grunts taken apart, but now still the kiting process ongoing as he's trying to move back, drop those raiders, not be forced into a fight, and Grubby relentlessly trying to pursue him here. Death Knight on 4.5. Lich is closing in on level 4 now as well, so he's getting a bit closer with this. In the main base, nothing new here for Happy. Grubby, on the other hand, is still relying on his composition. He's still getting those raiders out, trying to force these fights and of course put pressure onto the undead heroes with focus fire as well. Upgrades, has another attack upgrade here, another quick hit, and there we go, another raider down. And of course, thanks to the Dark Ranger, we now have more skeletons coming in too, but the Farseer hits level 5 as a result. We can now go in again. Chain Lightning on the Lich. Wolves summoned immediately. Chain Lightning on 3 here, apparently. And we're seeing immediate pressure onto the heroes again. Just look at that Death Knight. 200 hit points left, and he has to kite back here. He's just continuously trying to get one unit after another. Another coil comes in, another hit, another 2, but the healing wave, the Shadowhunter, in time with the heals, and Happy has to peace out. Loses the Dark Ranger in the process. And that is a bad, bad start here. Grubby just, again, looking great with this. Happy needed to move back. Rebuilding his Dark Ranger right now. 71 supply for Grubby. And at the same time, 46 for Happy. The best player on the ladder in Northrend at this point. Behind in the first game of this best of 7 series in this Orc versus Undead match. And no expansion for him here on Echo Isle. The small map not working to his advantage, and by now he's headed for the last creep spot of the map, trying to go down here to the bottom right and drop the Gigantan Sea Turtle on level 7. It's the last spot that he has. Lich will hit level 4. He might get close to level 5 with the Death Knight, especially if he moves the Lich back at this point in time. That might be something that he can use here. But things are certainly looking grim for Happy, no doubt about that. But he's back to 50 supply. He's continually staying out of the low upkeep. And that's one small advantage that he has over Grubby. He's trading occasion in those fights, and considering that he is never really forced into low upkeep, He is trying to make sure that Grubby's advantage through the expansion is not going to become too much of an issue. Only finds the Talisman of Evasion. Not really the best item to get here. Was definitely hoping for something different. Can definitely sell it. Could also start to still use it if he's afraid of all that focus fire that we could see from those headhunters. But it's definitely a tricky position for Happy to be in right now. The Death Knight is level 5 though, and the Lich is level 4. So we're actually looking at a situation where he has again a shot of maybe sniping a hero here. But you look towards Grubby, and immediately it's a massive army that you're confronted with. Again, expansion, under pressure. And he has killed a fair amount of units, but now has to back off immediately. Moves out again, just a bit of harass, all that he's doing for now. But let's take a quick look at the items that Grubby has and also at the supply. 50 for Happy, 67 for Grubby. We are seeing him at this point with the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. Has also, again, Dust of Appearance for the Burrow on the Fiend. We're having him with a Shadow Hunter on level 4, nearly 5. Another Potion of Lesser Invulnerability, Mana Potions as well. So really good items for Grubby. He's just like starving Happy. He's just making sure that the Undead doesn't expand. He knows that time works in his favor. The only thing he really has to do is keep him low, make sure he doesn't expand, and then let time work for him. That's what Grubby is currently doing in this game. And he's also now teching to the next tier, teching to tier 3. And that's of course great for him. Can add a third hero if he really wanted to. Would be a bit of a liability though, considering that it's on level 1 against heavy nukes from the Orc side, the Undead side. That could be an easy kill, but he can add a lot more tech through that, and even upgrades too. Right now we're still sitting on a 1-1 upgrade pattern for Grubby here when we're looking at his units, but he can definitely invest some of the resources that he has to get even more upgrades if he wants to. He's a bit low though on gold, again buying a lot of items throughout the entire time, which makes perfect sense for him. Double Scroll of Healing by now, and this is great. What's the big thing that can really just wreck this army? If there's Novas coming through, for example, that would be a huge problem, because a high-level Nova against Headhunters does a lot of damage. If you have a few Scrolls of Healing that can mitigate some of it, that would be great. Already putting Watchtowers into place here, anchoring also the Voodoo launch that we have. So right now, Grubby just making sure that he has a very solidified position, because he realizes, my opponent doesn't have an expansion, so Happy has to all in at some point. And he had Wolves positioned the entire time to see, is something sent down here? Is there going to be an expansion, yes or no? And that never was really the case. Right now, let's see if we have additional items being bought. Setting one of the Gloves of Haste, actually, has a few additional ones that he got now, and sends them over onto the Dark Ranger, trying to increase the damage output there. And of course, with the Dark Ranger in particular, if you can spawn Skellins, great as well. Ghouls at the front. Happy really feeling the pressure now, you can definitely tell. Happy is sitting at 66 supply though against the 75, so he's not too far behind. He doesn't have any upgrades again, and his items situation looks a lot more bleak than what we have from Grubby. About at the beginning of the game with all the exposed positioning taken down, so it made a lot of sense for Grubby to rebuild the shop at his expansion. Good forward-looking move by him. And now, of course, the fortified bunker burrows as well. And Forest Troll Berserkers, there we go. Gets one down, but of course that's now even increased damage output that we're seeing from them. And Grubby is going to try and take this fight. But Happy, this is his last hurrah, so to say. Like, he really needs to do some damage with this one. Still hoping to maybe turn this game around. And if he can snipe the heroes, that would be working for him. But there's a healing potion of the Farseer right now. There's another one on the Shadowhunter. Grubby knows that Happy's key to winning this game is through killing the heroes. So he has potions of lesser invulnerability, he has potions of healing, and he's just making sure that his heroes are as safe as they possibly can be. And in the meantime, one lone Acolyte, the last hope when it comes to income, is moving down to the bottom right, starting the gold mine. But we should see, yep, there they are, Wolves heading over very soon. And again, just pointing it out here, these Wolves are level 2. So Grubby with a level 5 Farseer decided to go into Chain Lightning, and he has already done a huge amount of damage with Chain Lightning earlier. If you get that Hex through, if you are able to get that level 3 Chain Lightning onto a Lich, for example, while you have a Hex on the Death Knight or onto the Dark Ranger, there's a good chance that you actually are able to kill one of these heroes, especially if you have an Ensnare and some Focus Fire added to it as well. Scout is in, so Grubby knows what's coming, and Grubby is going to shift his pattern now. The entire time Grubby was passive. He was sitting back, he was defending his advantage. Now he's going to try and push it. because he knows that once Happy has an expansion in the long run, Happy will have the better position. So now he needs to change his MO a little bit. Grubby is going to be way more active on the map from here on out because he simply has to. He needs to move out. Can wait a bit longer if he wants to hit a timing here, but eventually he will have to move out. He's sitting at 80 supply, and yep, you can see him starting to become aggressive. And Happy is switching his pattern, of course, as well. He's now trying to defend his gold mine that he's just now building, making sure that this is really going to help him in the long run. And Grubby mined a lot from this. I mean, just look at the advantage now. 3,000 gold left. So if you compare that to the right over here, that's an additional 9,000 gold that Grubby currently has. And this is something where he also is going to run out of money on that gold mine earlier than Happy. So he knows that he has a bit of a time window where he can attack Happy, where there's just no chance for Happy to get anything done. Because let's face it, the gold mines in the main, they are down already. There's no additional income. What you kill now counts. 78 supply against 66. And here comes Grubby. Grubby starting to move in right now, and immediately the Raiders being focused again, and Snare just being such a huge threat, but already Statues also in trouble. A couple of the Berserkers are moved straight into the Destroyers. Nova's coming through, Dark Ranger in trouble. Coil hits the Dark Ranger though, keeps it alive for now, but the Destroyers are falling one after another. It's a huge problem. Silence already on the Farseer, nearly level 6 for him. Here comes the Hex on the Death Knight. Farseer hits level 6, gets the Wolves in, skilled them on 3 here. No ultimate for the FS. And Dark Ritual being used by Happy, trying to get the mana to get additional Novas here. 36 supply for Happy, 64 for Grubby. Grubby shredding through this army, absolutely demolishing everything that Happy has on the map right now. And Happy is running out of mana on his heroes, or as it is. He's trying to somehow make a play here. Has still 1 potion of mana, but that's about it. The Fiends are all going down, and Happy is just murdering everything in sight. Another coil healing the Lich up, but here comes the Scroll of Haste, as we are seeing Grubby just moving in and trying to take those heroes down. The Dark Ranger heavily exposed, another Destroyer coming in. Coil saving it barely. All of the Raiders actually are gone, so Grubby can't really force the fight right now. He can't lock the Undead player down, but what he can do is start and make the move for the expansion fairly soon, and that's what he's going to do. 68 supply for him. Happy is sitting at 30. Happy is just kiting, trying to get some spells through, trying to get some damage in, but he knows already that this is nearly a lost cause. Grubby hasn't even used the potion of lesser invulnerability yet. None of them. Not even the potion of healing. Happy never attacked the heroes because he realized how low his chances were of taking them down with all the items that Grubby has. Great game here by Grubby, the Orc player, about to claim the lead in this best of 7 series here on Echo Isles, as Happily is struggling, trying to see if there's maybe an angle somewhere that he can use to take some units down, get a quick kill against the hero, exploit a mistake on Grubby's side, but Grubby just doesn't make any at this point. The early expansion gave him such a huge advantage. He played it perfectly, capitalizing on it, defending, and then hitting the perfect attack timing once realizing that Happy was forced to expand as well and was running out of money in his main base. Still, very little mining down here. Already we've seen a few of those wolves sent down, and now that's something that Grubby is just doing again. Lich is low, wolves are arriving here, shutting down all income that could potentially be had. We have a couple of raiders in the surround on the Lich. Happy just fighting for his life. He has his heroes, level 5, level 4, and a level 4 Dark Ranger too, but it's not going to change anything. He doesn't have the income anymore. Grubby is still mining. The wolves are ripping the acolytes apart at the expansion, at the natural, and now just a massive positional lead for Grubby, who's also about to hit level 6 with the Shadow Hunter here. Again, the attack. The wolves come in. The surround attempt against the Lich, and this time it's locked. Down he goes. Level 6 for the Shadow Hunter, and GG as Grubby wins game number 1. Game number 2, everyone. Grubby in the lead in the best of 7. Great game from him on Echo Isles. Early expansion from the Netherlandish Orc player. Orc player from Netherlands. Is that such a thing? Netherlandish? I don't even know. Weird thing to ask either. It's actually pretty cool because now in this game we actually have an observer, which it's making it a lot easier for us to commentate the game because now we have actual fog of war. It's definitely a bit of the downsides of commentating a game that is this old, of commentating Warcraft 3. I'm really looking forward to Reforged because we're very likely going to get a big observer interface update. But right now, especially when you are commentating ladder replays, for example, where you only have the players in-game, there are very limited options of what you can do with which view you use, and especially Fog of War is not really an option there. But the second you have an observer in the game, that problem at least is not an issue any longer, and this is the case for this particular game, so we can actually show vision as well, which is a lot more comfortable. So in game number 2 here, we have again an opening for Fiends on Happy's side. And I mean, Happy at this point must be a little bit annoyed at least. I mean, you have to consider how dominant that guy is in Europe right now. He is the ladder player, the #1 in the rankings with a 99% win ratio. And granted, with the matchmaking, a lot of these wins are going to be against lesser players. But even against the top tier, he is absolutely amazing. And now in the series, he just lost map #1. Very annoying for him, I would assume. We have Crypt and Graveyard to start things up. The altar therefore slightly delayed. Going to be the Death Knight again for him. Definitely a Fiend build that we're seeing here on his side. And let's double check what Grubby is going to do now here in game number 2. Heading straight into the Blade Master as his second hero. So switching it up a bit from that Farseer harass that we've seen in game number 1 on Echo Isles. Here on Terranar stand now with the Blade Master first. And will go for items, can also again try, sell the town portal, get a Circlet of Nobility. It's a pretty standard move to see here. Always trying to get a bit of a stats advantage for the Blade Master. And we're talking about this nearly every single cast, but again I want to highlight it. The Blade Master way of calculating the critical damage is different now. So it doesn't take into consideration every single damage item that you have into the calculation of the critical damage, but it still takes into consideration the extra damage that you get through stats. So the +2 that you get from the Circle of Nobility, for example, or the +6 that you would get from Boots of Elven Skin. Damage items like Claws of Attack, on the other hand, they are now added after the critical damage got calculated. So there's a little bit of a difference here, but that still means that Circle of Nobilities in general are fantastic items for Blade Masters. And it's one of the reasons why you see especially a lot of the Korean players also buy these items early on in the game. Good creep here already. Grubby, of course, cutting it a bit low. Shop is probably already in production or done. Yep, we'll need those with healing selves in order to make sure that his Blade Master still has the potential to be aggressive here. Finds 1 Ring of Protection +2, not really the greatest item to get for your first hero, but in the meantime, Happy is not much more lucky than that either. Ring of Protection +2 for him as well is starting to creep here in the middle of the map, a little bit more aggressive, and actually finds Claws, so denying those also to the Blade Master potentially in the long run. Grubby still trying to get, first of all, a couple more items, finds Lightning Shield, sells it immediately, and gets Boots instead. Lightning Shield is one of those weird items that can be a big asset, depending on the game and the flow of it, but also can be quite a bit of a problem here as well, where you're just saying like, okay, would have rather gotten a little bit more of a stat boost, something else here, and instead just sold, gets the Boots right away, and is really just trying to aim for a bit more aggression around that Blade Master for now. Looking at Happy, on the other hand, we're currently seeing him in a situation where we have Happy with, Forest Troll, High Priest being attacked down here immediately, trying to actually take the item again, and gets it as well. So Talisman of Evasion now too. So basically Happy is really trying to take at least some of those creeps away from Grubby, and items in particular. You've seen him active in the middle of the map, taking both of the items on the middle spots, and then at the expansion of Grubby doing the same thing. So a very aggressive opening from a creep pattern perspective. Not really focusing on the safe side of his map part, but instead just like really venturing out really deep to steal those items away. It's actually a really cool move here by him. And you could already tell that he was very well aware of how much of an issue some of this was, because he used his coil very aggressively to make sure that he takes those spots quickly and then moves out. At the same time now, though, great items for Grubby. I mean, Ruined Bracers, this is the dream against Undead. It's one of those fantastic items where you know that you're going to have a great time with your hero, because the reduction, the damage dealt reduction here, is fantastic considering that Undead relies so heavily on Coil Nova. Great kill also against the Fiend here. Happy just not having enough mana for a coil. And for Grubby, this is a dream start right now. His Blade Master is wreaking havoc. That Boots of Speed doing so much work here to just catch up with those Fiends. Happy without mana has a tough time. And Grubby can just simply harass him 6 days to Sunday. This is great for him. Lich coming in as the second hero for Happy now once again. A traditional composition for him. In the meantime, Grubby gearing up for a little bit more creeping. Has a Shadow Hunter in production now as well. Skeletons just scouting a bit on the map. But of course, we still have the MO of any Blade Master player. You just try to annoy the shit out of your opponent. And that's exactly what he does. And he nearly gets another Fiend. The Fiend is down, but killed by the Death Knight. And just look at that GK. Yes, he stole some items away, but he's still level 1. He's now finally gonna hit level 2, but it's so late. At least grabbing the Slippers of Agility +3. It was actually huge, because as said before, stats damage goes still into the critical strike calculation for Blade Master. So Grubby would have loved that item on his hero. But Happy takes it. Happy takes it. So Lich is now in play, Black Citadel tech. But the game is really not going too well for Happy. Losing 2-3 Fiends by now, as is the Blade Master on level 3, being highly aggressive here. Grubby now has the Shadow Hunter that he starts to creep solo, and the Blade Master is going to try and just do more and more damage and just attack more aggressively. So Happy has to somehow try and get around this, and we're going to find out how exactly he's going to do that. I mean, for now, it's like double checking. We have 30 supply for Happy. Grubby is still creeping here, is currently sitting at 37 supply. He has his tech into Stronghold on the way, Berserker Strength coming in, and there's very little pressure on Grubby. Like, he really has time to just do all of this right now. He's still trying to steal a bit of experience away. Didn't get an additional item here, and went on to the Lich now with one claw that he has, and we're still seeing more creep coming in, but of course also Dust of Appearance being used by Happy now as well. But Grubby is venturing out on the map with his Shadow Hunter while he's aggressive with the Blade Master and is just trying to get some safe experience. He has now the vision of where exactly the Undead is positioned, so he knows there is nothing that can really creep check the SH, and has now a level 2.5, closing in on level 3, and is just getting spot after spot after spot. Raiders in the mix as well, but he doesn't have the expansion that he relied upon in the last game. So now again, more Dust of Appearance, trying to make sure that these items are not going to be stolen away, and Grubby just being a nuisance. The Blade Master coming in, bam, hits the crit here, gets some damage in, as Happy adds statues, has a sustain now for this as well. Gets level 2, grabs the item again, has now sent towards 2, but Grubby once more moves in, bam, lasted for him, Blade Master out, and the Shadow Hunter nearly level 3, just hits it as we speak. Gets the item here as well. Boots of Khaldor, fantastic for the Blade Master. Great item again. It's going to hand that over to... Couldn't really be any better at this point in time. You have already the Braces, you have Potion of Lesser Invulnerability, the Boots of Speed, Boots of Khaldor, good damage. More items would be great for him. But Grubby currently feeling pretty good about this. Death Knight, on the other hand, has still struggled throughout the entire game, and at this point we're going to see the level 3 come into play, but yeah, Death Knight still lower than both of the Orc heroes, and already the Scroll of Haste being used comes in. Hex on the Shadow Hunter, on the Death Knight, another Fiend goes down, and the surround on the Death Knight breaking through though with the Coil Nova, taking the Raider down and at least escaping for now. Happy fighting back here and getting solid damage in actually. The Orb of Corruption on the Lich is doing wonders, has already a Sentry Ward on the ground to make sure that the Blade Master can't be too much of a nuisance here with his Wind Walk. But Grubby has to back off for now. And Happy holding position, holding his own here. Doing actually pretty well with this. Still trying, of course, to get more experience for himself, but not backing off in the slightest at this point in time. In the main base, we're now seeing also Temple of the Damned being built. Banshees, a huge factor, oftentimes now. 39 supply for Happy, 45 for Grubby, who's still roaming the map with a third hero now too, Tauren Chieftain. And this is actually a very, very typical combo that you see from Orc players against Undead. Shadow Hunter second, Tauren Chieftain third. Trying to play around Hex and also Stomp. If you have that crowd control and you can just like stun the units, this is fantastic. If you can also time it where you stun and hex the opponent's heroes, you have a really good chance of setting up kills for yourself. So having that TC coming in as the third hero is absolutely amazing, especially of course if you get him onto a higher level. Ank of Reincarnation. Well, that is going to keep him in play for quite some time. Level 2 for him now as well. The Endurance Aura is, of course, another fantastic asset that the TC brings to the table. Scroll of the Beast in the inventory now for Happy. And this isn't really too bad. With the Scroll of the Beast and now the Dark Ranger, sniping the Peon, who was setting up an expansion or trying to. You have now another good tool in your arsenal, as long as there are no Spirit Walkers on the other side for Dispel. Again, Sentry Ward on the ground, getting a bit of an idea of what exactly Grubby is up to. And Grubby is currently at 48 supply, so as Happy is still staying in the low upkeep, but with the Death Knight on level 3, Lich on level 2.5. Grubby is currently looking at an opponent that at least has a bit more nuke power than before. Now Happy himself would of course love to have at least level 3. He has the Orb, by the way, as well. Orb of Lightning and the immediate damage. Storm comes through, focus on the TC, and that Ank might already be triggered, but no, Shadowhunter again with the Healing Wave, setting that up. Kodo Beast snacking the first Fiend, trying to take it down, and the Kodo falls. So might the Tyrant Chieftain, but gets another Potion of Healing, finally going down here. We'll be having that Ank of Reincarnation still in play. And Happy, very aggressive, great timing for him, heavily relying on nukes once more, but the problem is the mana pool on the Lich in particular. He can get the auto attacks in, but he just doesn't have a Nova left any longer, and Happy is forced to back off here. Happy moving out, Grubby safe for now. Currently sitting at 45 supply, and Happy at 44 himself, but already expanding here at his natural. And now, of course, with the Temple of the Damned, we are seeing Banshees being produced. And Banshees are going to be fantastic here. Having Curse available to you and making the opponent's units miss is great. It's also fantastic against the Blade Master. If he misses criticals, that's the dream. At the same time, though, it can help you in the long run as well if you use anti-magic shells and you're just trying to avoid nukes from your opponent's side. Depends a lot, of course, on what kind of hero he uses. In this particular situation, might not be the play, but it's something that you see in other matchups, and you all occasionally see it against Orc as well, especially with Shadowhunter with Farseer openings, where Chain Lightning is a lot more prevalent. Or if there's maybe even a Chain Lightning Shockwave play. Not really as common these days, but can still be done. So for now, we're having still no level 3 on the Lich. It's something I have to check out. And 188 damage already on the crit. I mean, plus 16 damage, the Orb of Lightning, Circle of Nobility, Boots of Calthalas. What more do you want? It's a great spot for Grubby to be in. Still no upkeep. We're seeing more creeping happening for Happy here, who's nearly level 3 now on that Lich. Has the first Banshee in the mix as well. And Happy, of course. Also heavily interested in getting that Dark Ranger onto a higher level. For now, already gonna look at that silence towards the TC whenever the third hero of Grubby is gonna make his way in. And both players just dancing around a possible expansion. The second Peon actually had that natural for Grubby, and it's about to be taken out again. Getting dropped here. Whereas Happy himself is not able to get an expansion up either. Up here, Blade Master still being a bit of a pain. And Death Knight has actually a Potion of Greater Mana, so there's a lot of resources that we're seeing for Happy. Has even a Potion of Lesser Invulnerabilities to suck in the main base, apparently forgotten as he passed it over. 50 supply against 49, both of them not really making any big moves when it comes to low upkeep just yet. It's all about getting more experience right now. And the immediate move with the Dust of Appearance onto another creep spot towards the top right. There's a level 3 for the Lich, level 2 for the Dark Ranger, and here comes Grubby. But his army is currently fragmented. He needs to be really careful. Nice silence. Immediately counteracted by the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability, though. Making sure that the silence doesn't matter here. Gets the Stomp through and takes one Fiend down. Happy backing off right away. But a pretty cool move by Grubby here. The silence silences all the spells that you can use, but it doesn't silence your items. You can still use them, and Grubby used the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability to break through it. Break through the silence and get the Stomp through. He knew that Happy would be forced to TP out eventually, and his thought process was simply try and keep him here a little bit longer, try and take a few of those Fiends away, and make him really pay for it. Worst case, you trade a Town Portal for a Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. That's already a win, but in an ideal scenario, you drop a Fiend or two as well in addition to it, and that's all that you need to do there. Book of the Dead, so far, pretty decent for Happy. It's always one of those weird items where if your opponent has a lot of dispel at his disposal, you really don't want to use it, or you want to delay the usage until you took down all those nasty Spirit Walkers or Priests or whatever your opponent has available, and then you can get some value out of it. It's one of the reasons why oftentimes when you find a Tomb of the Dead or Book of the Dead in the early game, you're trying to set up an early timing with aggressive play to get good use out of it. Another creep spot here with one of mana stealing now for Happy. And again, that fight could turn against Grubby. Needs to be careful. Gets the radar sniped at the front immediately. Curse already coming through here. Here's the silence on the Tyrant Chieftain. 2 potions for him. Potion of greater healing, and gets immediately nuked. Happy is throwing everything against him. But another potion of lesser invulnerability is passed over onto the Tyrant Chieftain. And so far, that bad boy just does not yield. The Shadowhunter, a little bit low here on the retreat, needs to be cautious, but is able to move away regardless. Happy forcing Grubby back for now, but the Orc player already now with an expansion in play. Now that he is on tier 3, on the fortress, he actually used a tiny Great Hall. Focus fire onto the Blade Master. Keep in mind, still holding onto those rune bracers, so very little chance of Happy taking him down with a Coil Nova comp. But we're having also an expansion on the side of the Undead player as well. Both of them heavily focusing now on economy and crossing over into the lower upkeep. 58 to 55 supply. The TC still with a potion of greater healing. Has the boots of speed now too, as he's of course trying to make sure that he gets into that backline of the Undead army as quickly as possible. So not on the Blade Master any longer, who on the other hand can always rely on Windwalk. Damage output still there. Another Slippers of Agility actually found in the game. Plus 16 damage now for the Blade Master. And we're seeing the Potion of Greater Healing also passed over. And again, Grubby looking for a fight here. No upgrades for him. No upgrades for Happy either. TC wants to get into the back. First Raider about to fall. TC silenced, but the statue already eliminated by the Blade Master as the TC goes straight into the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability, trying to again get these storms through one after another and go straight for those Banshees as well. The curse on most of the units in the Orc army as is. Here's a level 4 for the Shadowhunter. Another Fiend saved by the Coil of the Death Knight as he's going through. And there goes the Raider. Down again. The ensnares are limited at this point. Nearly none left, and we're still seeing the pressure against especially the Shadowhunter, but also the Kodo Beast, another focus point for Happy as he wants to make sure that those Fiends are not falling. Devour always an option for the Orc player, and he's pulling into the beginning of the fight. TC still pressuring through the army, but no Potion of Greater Healing for him any longer. Vulnerable at this point. Happy losing units, but so does Grubby. He's losing all of the Raiders, and another Coil saves the Dark Ranger for now, closing in on level 3 as we see another Kodo Beast about to fall, and that's the last one. That's definitely a huge issue since most of that aura damage is now gone. But then again, Lich low, has the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability though, can still use that, and Happy fighting. Only 2 Fiends left for him, but the heroes are of course carrying him currently through that fight. Another Coil saves the Fiend. TC needs to move back, has the Potion of Greater Healing again in the inventory. Grubby passing items over the entire time from hero to hero and is pushing his opponent back again with the Troll Berserkers here. Another quick hit with a critical coming out of the Windwalk from the Blade Master, drops another statue, and Happy retreats towards his own expansion. Already starting to drop low here when it comes to supply again. TC moving in, looking for the storm. Doesn't have the mana, but the statue falls. And Blade Master about to be on level 5. Grubby with now Berserker mode on the Trolls, moving in. Level 3 for the Dark Ranger finally, but Happy is starting to fall behind here. Level 5 for the Blade Master. Grubby looking for the 2-0 in this series, surrounding the Death Knight. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability passed over from the Lich. Coil Nova going for the Blade Master, and the Blade Master goes down. Level 4 for the Lich. Grubby losing his first hero and starting to retreat as the slow hits the Tyrant Chief and the Nerubian Tower, doing a lot of work here, allowing the extra hits to come in from the Dark Ranger and the Lichers there, again trying to focus down every single Raider that appears in the army. It's always the focus of attention here, trying to take these Raiders down, trying to make sure that your opponent can't use ensnare against you. And Happy has of course an advantageous position here. He's close to his base, he's close to reinforcements, and he immediately attacks those stragglers that come in from Grubby's main base. One Raider down, second one falling, another ensnare coming in. Dark Ritual skilled from Happy on level 4, so he has a bit more sustain for himself here, not playing it greedy. and he gets rewarded for it. Lich is moving in again, mana low on every single hero, but the TC is in trouble. Gets a potion of lesser invulnerability, has a town portal too, and here comes the TP. Another Raider falling, and Grubby has to pull the parachute. Moving out in the fight, level 4.5, level 4 Lich, Death Knight on 4, Dark Ranger on 3. Happy sitting on 55 supply, and Grubby sitting on 45, taking a bit of a beating in the last battle, losing the Blade Master, definitely the beginning of the end when it came to the last fight. And talking about the Blade Master, not buying him back at the tavern either, looking at the Blade Master at the altar right now, reviving it, and trying to set up for the defense, as he knows Happy is going to be on its way. Items, not really too much left here in terms of consumables. We're currently seeing still decent damage on the Lich, plus 14. We have a potion of mana, and we have the Dust of Appearance for the Death Knight. That's about as good as it gets for Happy right now. Trying to counteract the Blade Master Windwalk and relying heavily on these coils from the Decay. So at this point, just trying to get that damage in on the expansion, and Grubby knows he is in trouble here. Waiting for the Blade Master for as long as he can, but at some point he just needs to make a move. He can't lose the expansion. Blade Master is back, has a few items. TC again, silence, has the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability, but already the Headhunters in the back are suffering heavily here. Grubby on the retreat, about to lose actually one of the Raiders. Gets healed, but here comes again the move with the Tyrant Chief, and trying to move in here, trying to stomp everything. Raiders about to fall, Dust of Appearance being used. Coil onto the Fiend, saving that. The Lich just firing away with the Orb of Corruption from the backline, trying to hit the Blade Master. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability being used by him just before he falls to the Coil Nova combo. And again the turnaround attempt here, but the TC is low, so's the Blade Master. Another Coil, another Nova, and this is the end of the Tyrant Chieftain. It might be the end of the game, as Happy is looking for victory right now. Grubby trying to save the Blade Master, but he is struggling and nearly losing it. Only 5 HP, and that is game, as we have the Blade Master fall, and Happy taking the victory in game number 2, tying the score in the series. Game number 3, Twisted Meadows, and we have Grubby towards the top right in an undefined color. Not quite sure what that's supposed to be. Like, I aimed for a little bit of a gray, but yeah, it's weird. I couldn't really find anything that probably fitted for our overlay here, but I think you guys can bear with me. Unfortunately, in this game again, we don't have an observer, so we only have our 2 players, which is why we're going to switch between the 2 a little bit. The series is tied. Grubby winning it on Echo Isles, but then losing on Terranar Stand against Happy. We're having in this best of 7 now. Again, barracks being built, not as super fast tech as we sometimes see with Farseer. Cross position, by the way, on Twisted Meadows, down to the bottom left. Happy, and as we said before, he is just one of the best players that we have in Europe right now. But Grubby, of course, playing a lot and getting better every day as well, and you could see that in game number 1 in particular. So now, guys, once again, while we're also looking at this, keep in mind, if you really enjoy the content here, if you enjoy the commentary, then subscribe to the channel. It's always appreciated, and you're also going to get, of course, notifications for future videos as well. Well, let's check out who's going to take the lead here in the best of 7. One of them is going to take that now. A bit of a different build here, by the way, now for Happy. As you can see, he adds the graveyard a bit later than he did in the previous games. Now, we had him oftentimes starting straight with a crypt into a graveyard and then delaying the altar, which usually comes out to you having your fiends available a little bit sooner, and then the Death Knight later. This could be just him trying to see if he can be aggressive. Especially considering that we are currently having him with a scout early on in the game on one of the acolytes. So very likely that's going to be a more aggressive stance from Happy in this particular game. And we have Farseer again for Grubby. So Grubby actually switching back to his Farseer style that we saw in game number 1, where he was successful. We have down to the bottom of the map another scout as well for the Orc, who, by the way, is again going for that forward Voodoo launch. Now, we talked about the positioning on those structures already earlier. If you plan on getting expansion early on, if you plan on being more aggressive on the map, having that forward voodoo launch serves several purposes. For example, if Grubby decides that he wants to expand here, that voodoo launch is right between the expansion and his base, so it makes it easier for him to get access to it and items when he's having to defend up here. It also scouts one of the attack paths towards his own main base. At the same time, it's very much exposed. So whenever Happy moves in and tries to take it down, he's going to have an easy time doing exactly that. And you already see it. He immediately goes for it with the 2 skeletons here and forces the cancel. Grubby again going for cancel, trying to save the Peon here, but Peon is going to fall eventually. Grubby not able to deny it with a hit. But yeah, that showcase is pretty much the problem when you have the shop this fast forward. So not working out for him this time. And also, as we said, aggressive play from Happy, taking into tier 2 very quickly, but a very early altar now. So going for a Fiend variation build that we have now that allows him to just be way farther out on the map with the Death Knight early on in the game. And it already paid off for him. Cancelling that shop twice was great. And in the inventory, still having also the Dust of Appearance. So you can tell that he was thinking about, okay, what happens if my opponent actually goes Blade Master again? But in this case, he's just trying to make sure that Farseer doesn't get too much XP. Farseer is on half a level, though. So he is still taking out also... So Grubby is not just hating animals. In this case, it actually serves a purpose. He wants to make sure that the Undead player has no corpses where he can spawn additional skeletons. So, might look a little bit weird when you have a player running around the map and killing every single critter that he encounters, but when you're up against an Undead player, it actually makes sense. It should never be a focus, but if there's nothing else to do and you're just walking past, you might as well. Shuts down the option in the early game more so than anything else to use skeletons and the Rod of Necromancy. So Grubby just helping himself here a bit. And in the meantime, we are seeing the creep for him started. And also, of course, Happy trying to get at least level 2 for his own Death Knight. You want to have that Unholy Aura, since it is an absolutely amazing tool for him. We're having up to the top right currently. A couple of grunts in, we have the stronghold tech for Grubby. He's already looking at a talisman of evasion. Again, very likely that we're going to see that being sold even. It's oftentimes more so a source of income than an item that actually sees a lot of use in the game. Depends a lot on what kind of heroes you play. If you have a melee heroes at the front, if your opponent plays a lot of range, so that there is focus fire options. But money is oftentimes what you're going to see, and the item is sold. And I would actually expect that to happen in this game eventually if Grubby is in need of anything. For now, he keeps it. We're having also the creep for his opponent, now leading into level 2, and Circlet of Nobility for him. And in the same vein, we're also seeing a little bit more creep happening here for Grubby, who now gets access to the mercenary camp as well. Tries to cut the path of retreat of those creeps off, which would allow him force around and getting a bit more damage in. Yep, goes immediately for the rock golem here. And Happy is happy to creep on the map as well. So both of them are just like trying to play this a little bit more passive. We saw the early aggression for Happy, cancelling the shop and being a nuisance, but outside of that, not too much yet. Immediate item grab here with the Mantle of Intelligence. Probably going to use a couple of healing salves so that he can get the Scroll of Speed. But here comes Happy, trying to snack the items away. That didn't quite work out. Level 3 for the Farseer as he gets a Chain Lightning through, and the last hit in as well. One grunt goes down though, as that level 1 coil is just delivering enough damage to drop the melee unit. So Happy gets the creep jack in, gets some damage in, still behind when it comes to experience. But we're seeing him now with the Lich already as the second hero. Slaughterhouse and immediate attack into the Black Citadel. While we're seeing his opponent, Grubby, just dropping a few more skeletons to get even more XP. So Happy probably going to be pretty happy, no pun intended, with that little creep check. Didn't really do massive amount, but every little bit counts here. Checks the expansion of Grubby and makes sure that there is no move for an additional base. The problem for him is that Lich is in a bit of trouble. Again, Frost Armor as the first skill, the first ability. See that skill quite a bit, especially against Orc. It's normally a go-to. When you have that pressure, you get the Nova on 2 and 3 then afterwards. But Grubby just double-checking this a little bit. Gets the Shadow Hunter now out at the same time. And Stronghold tech into Black Citadel right away. So looks like we're going to see that fast third hero once again. It's a big map. Like Twisted Meadows in general is like a pretty big map here. We're Happy is currently just looking for additional creep opportunities. Needs to get the Death Knight on 3. 31 supply versus 39 right now. Happy even a little bit ahead when it comes to supply numbers. Mostly because he was able to take down a few of those grunts. Grubby doesn't have to resummon the wolves. In case that you're not quite familiar with that, wolves actually, when the Farseer like summons them again, the previous set of wolves, if it's still alive and on the map, disappears. So what you are going to see a lot of Orc players do is they will resummon their scouting wolves once the opponent attacks them, so that the original two disappear and aren't killed by the opponent. So that nice experience again. A lot of Warcraft 3 really just hinges around trying to make sure that your own heroes have an advantage over your opponent. And there's a lot of crucial levels that you want to hit. Level 3 on an Undead is usually very, very important when you're playing Death Knight Lich, since it means you have a level 2 Coil, you have a level 2 Nova, level 5 therefore for the same reason also highly important to get those level 3 nukes into play. And that's something that Happy is now looking at. Gets the item, Belt of Giant Strength, massive boost in hit points for him now on the Death Knight, nearly looking at 1,000 as we speak, and has one Claws of Attack +6 that he immediately hands over to the Lich. That's normally where you find the damage items on the ranged heroes, since they have much better damage output and auto attack pressure. Scroll of the Beast being used, and that's a really cool move from Grubby. Early use of the Scroll of the Beast before Destroyers are in the game, so he's trying to hit a bit of timing around the item that he finds here, and gets one Fiend immediately and forces Happy back. This is another big thing in Warcraft 3. Depending on the items that you find, you can adjust your strategy. A Potion of Greater Mana in the early game when you're playing Hero of Summonings can be fantastic. Archmage, for example, Farseer as well. Find a Scroll of the Beast. You want to use that before there is any kind of reliable dispel on the opponent's side. And Happy will have Destroyers eventually, so Grubby knows that with the Scroll of the Beast he has a good chance of using that early and trying to just take down a few units here, and that's exactly what he does. 39 supply for Happy, 42 for Grubby right now. And we're seeing him with additional creep as well, especially that that Shadowhunter wants to have level 3, of course. But it's also Happy who crosses the map right now and has his third hero. Just got the Dark Ranger. Lich is still on level 1. Yeah, good, Corey. Gets the experience here and gets a level 2 on the Lich as well. Means he has Nova now and can use that against the Shadowhunter, which we immediately see Scroll of Speed being used for Grubby to move out of harm's way. That SH found a Sobi Mask though. Scroll of the Beast and Sobi Mask now on the Shadowhunter, and the Sobi Mask in particular is going to be fantastic for him. No expansion yet for either player, but here comes the Tauren Chieftain again that we talked about earlier. And that's the hero that he passes the item over. Talisman of Invasion for the Tauren Chieftain makes a lot of sense. As I said earlier, you have a melee hero that goes up against ranged units. That's a great item for him to have. We've seen in the previous game on Terraner's Stand how much Happy actually focused the Tauren Chieftain because it's such a huge threat with the crowd control that it provides through the Warstorm. So right now, Talisman of Evasion is a good tool to mitigate some of the damage that will come from the Lich, from those Fiends. But Grubby plays this very, very passive for the time being. He has a couple of Raiders already, he can force the fights, but doesn't really want to go up against his opponent in that manner just yet. Happy actually passed some of the items over now too. Did pass the Belt of Giant Strength over to the Lich, which heavily increases his hit points, but would have been a great item for the Death Knight as well. He's a lot more worried apparently though that the Lich might be a focus point for the Orc, and once the Hex comes through on the Death Knight and you lose the Lich, you will lose a lot of your damage power. I can't overstate how much of a crucial hero in any Undead army the Lich actually is. If you have a Lich that has good damage items, that has an Orb of Corruption, it's huge. As an Undead player, an Orb of Corruption is a must-have. And that's always what you see. It's one of the reasons why Undead actually rushes tier 3 that quickly. Double Talisman of Evasion. Okay, didn't quite expect that, and don't really think that Grubby is going to be too happy about this one. The Undead player himself got a Ring of Protection +2. Oh my god! Look at that Lich. Khadgar's Gem of Health. 1,000 hit points on the Lich right now. That's bananas. Just compare that to the Farseer for a second. The Farseer is sitting at 600 hit points. Another intelligence hero, and he has 400 hit points less. That's insane. Grubby, by trying to build an expansion now, starting things off with a watchtower so that even incoming skeletons or ghouls that are sent over can't really attack that too early. Grubby himself sitting on 50 supply, whereas Happy has crossed over into the low upkeep and is building Banshees again. So really relying heavily on the Curse once more, but already being more aggressive. He has Destroyers right now in the mix, he's going for Banshees, no upgrades for him, but a Death Knight on level 4, the Lich nearly level 3. But he will go up against an opponent who already has fortified armor for those burrows, and that makes it way more difficult for Happy to snipe those. If they don't have that upgrade and are still heavy armored, it's easy to take them down, especially with the help of destroyers. But he's trying to snipe at least a few peons. Grubby in the meantime, creeping again, oh my god, and finds a Khaldor's Gem of Health as well for the Tauren Chieftain. That's a great item. That front hero is so difficult to take down right now, it's going to be a massive problem for Happy to deal with that, no doubt about it. Not only the Talisman of Evasion, but also the gem and a Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. I thought that Lich is going to be difficult to deal with, but that Tauren Chieftain is definitely going to be another big one. And Grubby is just creeping. He wants that TC on level 3. He wants the TC on the next level. And that's why he is going to be just creeping. Gets a Tomb of Experience and a Belt of Giant Strength. Fuck me sideways. 1,350 HP on the Tauren Chieftain. If you want to see an Undead's Nightmare personified, just look at that TC. This is going to be brutal. TP in, TP out. Not waiting any second here. Grubby is already supply blocked at this point in time, but still, with him having fortified upgrade for the burrows, he only lost a couple of structures, didn't lose too much here, has the expansion, well, at least the position for the expansion set up, but that TC is going to be an absolute monster. I thought that Lich was a nightmare. And then you see the items that the Tauren Chieftain gets, and you're just like, oh my god, what's going on here? And it's going to be really interesting to see how exactly Happy is going to deal with this, because that's not going to be easy at all. Grubby is doing a great job creeping that TC now on 3. 4 would, of course, give him the extra endurance level on the aura. What's the next? Oh! You are shitting me, right? TC with a double Belt of Giant Strength. And Grubby at that point just saying like, what the hell am I going to do with all that HP? And gives the Khaldor's Gem of Health over to the Shadow Hunter instead to keep him alive a little bit longer. That Tauren Chieftain right now has plus 12 armor, and that is without the Kodo aura. Sorry, damage of course, not armor. That's still insane. 1,200, and the items for Grubby are just bonkers at this point. The Sobi Mask alone was already great, but now he's just sitting in that. Let's take a quick look at Happy here. I mean, he's currently looking at Claws attack plus 6. I mean, the damage output plus 13. The tombs as well that Grubby got. Level 4 on the Tauren Chieftain. I think I get 2 Tombs of Experience right now. Must have hit a second one here at the last spot. Yeah, for sure. There's no other way he already has level 4 here. So double Tomb of Experience for him. The items alone buys a few more. Expansion is done. Not mining yet, but it's done. And talking expansions, yeah, we see Happy also heading for one now. 54 supply for the Undead. Grubby is sitting at 70 supply right now. And let's see how Happy handles that situation. I honestly don't know how he's going to kill these heroes. That Shadow Hunter is going to have so much mana regeneration here. He's looking at another Scroll of the Beast, has a Talisman of Evasion, difficult to kill. Hit point pool is insane on the TC in particular. Wolves are already attacking the left side here. But now Happy is trying to make a play here. He's trying to make a play. 58 supply for him. Taking down the turret first of all. But if he can take that expansion down, that would be an absolute dream. He has a few Banshees with this, so there's going to be the curse. But how do you deal with the Tauren Chieftain? That's my biggest question right now. Tauren Chieftain immediately breaking through the silence with the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability and gets the first stomp in. Shadow Hunter being attacked, but again, the hit point pool on that bad boy is absolutely nuts right now, thanks to Khaldor's Gem of Health. Another stomp coming through. The focus onto the Raiders once more as Happy focus fires one unit after another. Stomp. 6 days to Sunday for the TC. Could even pass the Sobi Mask over, to be honest. Here comes the quick hex, but the coil still went through here, and the healing waves are rattling through the Orc army to keep it alive. Grubby currently down to 59 supply against the 66 that we're seeing for Happy, as the Undead player is actually taking the lead in army supply. Headhunter after Headhunter is falling, ignoring the heroes for now, and Grubby is out of mana on the Tauren Chieftain. He can still, of course, dish out the damage, but he can't stop any longer. The coil saving the Dark Ranger here, as we're having the Lich provide frost armor one piece after another. Here comes the Scroll of the Beast finally on the side of Grubby, trying to use that to get some extra damage out here. Level 4 for the Farseer. In the meantime, Tauren Chieftain still an absolute bank and monster in the middle of the army, as we are having him access the shop and trying to get another potion of mana. Uses that for another big stop, but Happy just doing a fantastic job here with the Burrow on the Fiends and getting
dealing the damage out one time after another. No more destroyers in the air though. Doesn't have the dispel at this point in time. Death Knight just using the coil. But here again, the Tauren Chieftain just doing work. Fiends all in the ground right now. Happy might have to TP out here. 59 supply on the side of Happy, and Grubby at the same time looking at 44. As we're seeing him heavily relying on the heroes, trying to get the statues out of the way to kill the sustain on mana and hit points for the Undead player, but he's losing most of those raiders. One going down to the skeletons here as both the TC and the Shadowhunter are low. Again, another quick Coil Nova combo attempt, but the TC survives, gets access to the shop and drops the potion. Another Chain Lightning. The Shadowhunter nearly level 4, running out of mana though, even with a Sobi Mask, and Happy just murdering through that army. Level 4 on the Lich and the TC. Can he die? He's trying to get the coil through, but he doesn't have the mana any longer. We have Dark Ritual being used as well to get a bit more onto the Lich, and he has another Nova. But Happy somehow goes through that fight, and with the help of the Curse and the Undead heroes is able to win it, despite the items that we're seeing on Grubby's side. And Grubby now, in a pickle, has every single hero insanely low. He's looking at 41 supply, trying to regenerate mana and hit points, as Happy is sitting at 60 right now. Still has that base in play, but the wolves are being sent over and over again. Ziggurat not upgraded yet, just now into the Nerubian Tower, and Grubby is losing his expansion. Happy absolutely beasting that last fight. Insane micro by him here, able to keep his heroes alive, and once that the TC ran out of mana, big problem here. Again, Grubby trying to move in, saving that base. TC on level 4. Farsi on level 4 as well. The Aura on 2. Here comes the upgrade for the Shadowhunter. He's trying to get the next set in. Healing wave after healing wave. Storm, Chain Lightning, everything. But the expansion is already gone. Happy could move away right now if he wanted to, but he wants to kill a few more units in the process and is aiming straight for those frontliners. Curse through the Banshees. Supplied the entire time, weakening the Orc army. Dark Ranger has to be a bit careful. Another coil would be needed here, but the Shadowhunter also in a bit of trouble, but still a lot of hit points for him. Coil comes through as the Dark Ranger is dropping in HP and has to retreat here. Another set of wolves already on the Crypt Fiend in the back. Here comes the Tauren Chieftain trying to look for that next storm, needs the mana, looking for it. Death Knight not on 5 just yet, but Grubby now pinning Happy to the wall here. Fiend after Fiend goes down, and eventually it looks like Happy will have to use the Town Portal, but he's trading nicely here. Storm doesn't do too much, doesn't stop the Lich right now, and another coil is available just now and gets hit onto the Fiend. But now the Lich, it might be in a bit of trouble. Still has the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability in the inventory on the other hand. Kodo Beast, Novad, attacked, trying to free the Fiend and gets it. But now the Hex onto the Lich. Maybe a little bit too early here. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability can still be used here and immediately is being used. That Farsia goes down as the Death Knight hits level 5 and turns around, trying to get another kill in. But here comes the Town Portal. Already using the Burrow to get the Fiends back into play. The Lich survives just barely as Happy moves out, saves his 3 heroes. 4.5 on the Lich, 4.5 on the Dark Ranger, 5 on the Death Knight, rebuys the Town Portal instantly, and is in a massive lead right now in this third game. 58 supply for Happy, 31 for Grubby. Expansion down, Happy still mining on the left side of the map. Great game so far by him, and Happy just looking to make sure that this is going to be the lead for him in the best of 7 series here in this third game. Shadowhunter, Sobi Mask, Khadgar's Gem of Health, the Tauren Chieftain with a tiny Great Hall trying desperately to get another source of income into play, and at this point even had to sell a few of his items here. Nearly level 5 for him though, closing in on level 5, but he is so low at this point in time on units. Doesn't have a huge army. 33 supply is all that he has. The Banshees, their value in the last battle cannot be understated. They did so much work here. The Curse particularly, of course, weakening the Orc army the entire time and making it really difficult for Grubby to kill anything here. 66 supply right now against 38. Farsia is about to be brought back into the game. More units coming from the main base. Happy mining now from that expansion, is in the position where he knows how far ahead he is, and he's going to try to keep that lead. Trying to get a couple of items, of course, as well. Still needs to be cautious. There are a lot of tools. And Grubby actually going for a bit of a Zeppelin play here. Trying to go and creep on the island.
could theoretically even try to set up an expansion eventually. That Granite Golem on the level 9 is going to give him quite a bit if he can sustain that. But as expansion is being attacked here, I kind of doubt that he's going to take that fight though. Another base being built by Happy in the meantime. And yeah, Grubby is just trying to creep here. He needs gold, he needs items, he needs experience, he needs something. If he can get level 5 here, that would be great. And he's just hoping that somehow he can get those heroes on a level where they can do work. Level 5 is in for the TC. He sacrifices the expansion at the right side, doesn't defend it. There's too much for Happy anyways. +1 attack on the Fiends. And in the meantime, there it is. The next level. What is he gonna get? Gets the stone token. Rock Golem for him, no level 5 on the Shadow Hunter, but has the 5 on the TC right now and builds another base. Desperately trying to somehow stay in the game as Happy expands, scouts the map everywhere, tries to find out what exactly his opponent is up to, and is now setting up for a final attack into the main base of the Orc player. And Grubby has a problem. Not only does he have any income right now, he also has really low heroes because of that creep. He needs to wait until the healing self recovers those HP. The shop already being attacked, trying to cut Grubby off from any item he could possibly get right now, as Happy is trying to push in to seal the deal in game number 3 to get the lead in the best of 7 here. Grubby again looking for a move in, and here comes the Zeppelin, of course, scouted. So at this point, Happy already has a bit of an idea what might have happened here, but is starting to take and chase that army away. The base still being built over here. It's going to be a long time until this is really going to be profitable, especially now that the Zeppelin is taken down too, has to rebuild the peons on the island. Here comes the TC though. No potion of lesser invulnerability to break through the silence, and moves in, tries to take that Death Knight down. Death Pact being used right away by Happy, not risking anything here. Coil Nova onto the Kodo Beast in the back. The Banshees are dropped one after another, but there is nothing that Grubby has left, and we are seeing Happy just murdering the Farseer right now, dropping that and taking the fight, taking very likely the game as well. Only the TC left. Potion of Less Invulnerability being used here, passed over from the Shadow Hunter. Grubby fighting tooth and nail to somehow break through this army and buy himself a little bit more time, but it's unlikely to have an effect. Another Hex, not the Coil Nova attempt onto the Shadow Hunter might be successful once the Death Knight comes out, gets the coil in. That's the end. GG, well played, and Happy taking the lead in the best of 7 series against Grubby. Happy has taken the lead in the series, and we are now looking at Amazonia as we have Grubby down to the bottom of the map, bottom left for him, once again in green. Switching away from that ugly color that he had on game number 3, up to the top right. We're currently seeing an opening again. Like, the same opening here again. Like, we talked a little bit about the variation of Happy's starting position. Grubby with a position spam here. So what we're having for Happy right now is Crypt and Graveyard right away. So you delay your altar slightly, have the Fiend out though when your Death Knight appears on the map. So it's a little bit of a different setup. On Twisted Meadows we had an earlier altar for Happy because at the beginning of the game he wanted to be way more aggressive, which is what happened then. Was even able to cancel the shop on the side of Grubby to just like make his own expansion a little bit slower and make it more difficult for Grubby to really get his creep pattern started and also like set everything up here. This time on the other hand we're seeing him with more the traditional build, trying to just get the Death Knight out when the first Fiend is there so that you can start creeping immediately. So outside of that, we're having Grubby going straight into the Blade Master again. So his second game now with Blade Master. And in the best of 7 he is currently behind. He has taken the early lead in the series with a victory on Echo Isles. But now 2 games in a row, Happy just pulling off wins for himself here. And especially in the last game, pretty impressive micro too. But it also showed the just power of Banshees in this matchup when you hit the late game and when you can use the curse on your opponent's side. Of course, it was kind of helpful that Grubby never really put any kind of Spirit Walkers into play either. Was heavily focused on having the Raider and Headhunter composition that he really loves to play here, with the Shadow Hunter on the second hero, having the Tauren Chieftain on 3 to just get the additional CC in. Hex and Warstorm used to just interrupt any kind of attack pattern from an Undead, trying also to interrupt coils and kill heroes. It was a lot more successful in some of the previous games, but in the last one, struggle a bit with that. And for now, we're going to see early creep again, trying to get a couple of items, and then we should see that Blade Master head over to the other side of the map, trying to get, first of all, steal a couple of creeps away, steal experience away from Happy, but also making sure that the Shadow Hunter, once it comes in as the second hero, has a lot of leeway creeping unharmed. Claws of Attack +6, already a great item for him to get here. Heavily hinging on the auto attacks, the Blade Master, so you want to have the claws on him. In general, you want to have attack damage items on your ranged hero, but there are, of course, exceptions. Depending on how you play with an Alchemist, you can see Alchemists with a lot of damage items, especially if you go into Chemical Rage and you don't go into the Acid Bomb and Healing Spray, both of them. But if you're playing with the Blade Master, then obviously auto attack damage is what you're really trying to push out here. So that's normally what we're seeing then. Same time now, we are having some creep happening from Happy. And Double Fiend has the Death Knight, uses the Lightning Shield that get cast upon him by the Renegade Wizard immediately to his advantage to get more damage in, and stays also away from his skeletons. At the same time, Gloves of Haste picked up, even sacrificing now a Quick Coil. And pretty reasonable choice here as well. You want to complete the first creep very, very quickly, so that there's no chance of the Blade Master coming in and stealing the item away. So it's always a bit of a gamble over how you do that. We're having also now Dust of Appearance in the inventory. We've seen that in every game that they played thus far. Always assuming that there's going to be a Blade Master, he's going to be forced back, and then just simply tries to make sure that he can use the dust to not lose anything against the Blade Master. But so far, Grubby isn't even attacking. Grubby, on the other hand, finding a sick item already. So going for a couple of the bigger creep spots here immediately, and taking those, and gets the Lion Horn of Stormwind. Really not too bad. And keep in mind that the aura has actually been buffed a little bit from the Paladin as well. For now he gets the 1.6 here through the Devotion aura. It's a great item to have for an Orc player in particular, in my opinion. Already very hit point heavy and beefy units, and then on top of that having an armor increase is just fantastic for him. Good items too. Has a Circle of Nobility now, shop access for that, and Claws of Attack +6. Items aren't too bad either when you're looking towards the Death Knight. He already has a Mantle of Intelligence, which is going to be great for the Lich later. Gloves of Haste as well, and is going to try and get a bit more done to that too. Continuously using the Dust of Appearance here when he goes for the big creeps. Gets another Circlet here. Great items for a Blade Master too, so if Grubby would have gotten that, would have been fantastic for him. But he's just trying to creep the shop again. Death Knight already on level 3, and so far Happy is going to be pretty satisfied with how this is going. He gets free reign on the map, he got a lot of creep in, he has level 3, same is true for Grubby as well, who has now achieved level 3. Gets a replenishment potion for his efforts here, which isn't going to be too bad for the Blade Master with the continuous harass that we're seeing. But of course tech into tier 2 now from Happy. On the other side, Grubby already reached that, gets the Shadow Hunter in. So pretty normal opening for both players. Not really too much aggression, there's not really too much harass happening just yet. The Death Knight has hit a comfortable level 3, which is going to be great for him. And it's exactly what he wanted to be. But now he is actually going to very likely, lose out on a bit here. The immediate attack happening. Great job by Grubby getting those last hits in right now. Trying to get some extra experience for himself, and more importantly, deny it to his opponent. And can't really prevent the Death Knight from getting level 3 though. Like we talked about this a bit earlier. Against an Undead player in an ideal world, you want to avoid him ever getting to a point where he has high level heroes. If you can force fights with radar timings, for example, where you just move in and force him into battles on Fiends, if you're a Night Elf and can use Entangle to force these fights early, in an ideal world you're just interrupting his creep pattern continuously to make sure that it's extremely tricky for him to get the upper hand on experience. But in the late game, then you have to work around Potions of Lesser Invulnerability depending on your hero choices. And we have again Lich into Black Citadel into Slaughterhouse. So the importance of a fast tech into tier 3 for Undead just not changing in this series at all. You want to get quick access to the Orb of Corruption. You want to have the option to go into the Destroyers here, especially against a player that relies heavily on units that are heavy armored. So we talked about armor types and attack types a bit in the past. But if you're a bit newer to Warcraft 3, this is another crucial element when you compare Warcraft 3 to other RTS games like StarCraft 2. You have heroes and items, of course, as a big element. You have low upkeep and high upkeep depending on your supply numbers. And you also have different armor and damage types. And so magic damage does massive damage to heavy armor. So having destroyers in play is fantastic if you're going up against an opponent that plays with a lot of grunts here. And Grubby relies on 4 grunts right now, has the first raiders in play with medium armor here, and is going to try, or can try, and force some fights around that. But what we talked about at the beginning of the game is actually being broken here a little bit. Because, as I said before, Grubby is going to try and get his Shadow Hunter on a higher level. You want to have a good level on your healing wave, so that in big fights you have a lot of sustain available and make it difficult for the Undead player to kill anything. And you want to have Hex as well, so that you can try and get kills while hexing the Death Knight, or just simply hexing a Fiend and taking it out of the fight for a bit. The problem is, if your opponent is able to interrupt your creep pattern, then you're not going to get that easy experience on that hero, and that's usually where the Blade Master comes in. He's going to try and harass you and force you to pay attention, and that gives a little bit of freedom for the Shadow Hunter, who by now is level 3, and this is also one of the reasons why you want to have a few creep spots available around your main base, so that's a bit easier. Orb of Lightning being bought here, and you can of course estimate that this is going to be handed over to the Blade Master pretty soon. And the Blade Master is still trying to get those hits in, already interrupting exactly that creep, because he wants to make sure that that Lich is low. Keep the Lich low, make sure that he doesn't get any additional experience if you can prevent it. And now even attacking with a Shadow Hunter here, trying to hit the timing around having Raiders with Ensnare in-game. Blade Master with the Orb of Lightning, getting the Purge through here now too, and trying to drop those statues quickly. The first one going down as we speak, plus 13 damage on the Blade Master. Good damage now also on the Lich, by the way, as he has those items that we talked about earlier, but another Fiend falls, and here comes the next Ensnare. Grubby with really nice attacks here, trying to take those units down, and he's doing a fantastic job with this. Happy is at 33 supply against the 40 that we're seeing from Grubby, but another big hit, even going for the Lich now as he's dropping Fiend after Fiend, and those healing waves are doing wonders. Even with a healing wave only being on level 1, that Blade Master, particularly with the Orb of Lightning right now, is just doing work. A bit unfortunate for him, doesn't get the Fiend. Happy able to coil it and save it for now, but still getting another coil through, trying to drop a unit, gets one, drops the Raider here, but Happy definitely in a situation where he lost a fair amount of Fiends here. And let's not forget about the Obsidian Statue as well. So Grubby taking a bit of a lead with this, doing really well here. Great item, of course, as we said before, having access to the Lionhorn of Stormwind and the Devotion Aura is pretty big here for him. And that's what he's currently using here. And he starts just continuing to creep. Same, of course, true for Happy. I mean, the idea hasn't changed, really. You want to make sure that you have your level 3 Lich, and you also want to ideally get a little bit higher with a Death Knight. There's always the attempt to go for additional levels on your Unholy Aura, so that you can kite your opponent a bit more effectively and get that bonus in. But at the same time, obviously, there is the safety of having Death Pact available to you if your opponent is heavily focusing on heroes. And we saw Death Pact already used several times now. Shadow Hunter with double aura now, Ilaria's Flute of Accuracy. Normally you could really argue that for an Orc player that might not be the greatest item here, but we've already seen in the previous games how heavily Grubby relies onto Headhunters in the late game. And that means that's going to be insane additional damage. Nice Dark Ranger silence here on the Blade Master. He got the experience though. Level 4 for the Blade Master. Didn't grab an item, but at least gets continuous last hits in. Scroll of the Beast by now in the inventory for the Lich, so finds the items here. But as we talked about earlier, they're having Grubby with intent to make it as difficult as possible for his opponent to get experience, and he's denying it continuously with that Blade Master. TC now with a Potion of Invulnerability, not even a lesser, so a full 15 seconds here. And we're having the same time also with the Shadow Hunter now the first few Troll Headhunters. And that's 3 additional damage per Troll Headhunter. Great items again. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that, what we're seeing from Grubby here. Then again, if you think about it, last game looked pretty good for him too. But there's a huge difference of having just super tanky heroes and of course having a fantastic army with extra armor, plus in addition to that also extra damage output, at least on the ranged units. So that's going to help him here for sure when it comes to late game scenarios, and I mean it's kind of likely here. The best of 7 series so far was actually really close. Grubby is doing fantastic against Happy, even though the Undead player has now taken the lead in the series. Tier 3 tech obviously achieved already for him since he has the Dark Ranger in play, but here we see again that switch into Temple of the Damned. 50 supply for Grubby, 49 for Happy, adding Banshees as we speak, trying to get that curse access. And nice. This is a fantastic creep for Grubby. It's a huge one. Good experience, gets the Helm of Valor here. Strength and agility on the hero. Good boost in HP here. Even hands over the Gauntlets of Augur Strength. Could have gotten, of course, even better items for him, but still great experience for him. Items boosting the HP of the Tauren Chieftain. And we're seeing the same now on the side of his opponent. Dark Ranger gets actually beaten up here a little bit. It's always tricky to do that with ghouls too. One ghoul going down, and that's, yeah, that stomp is just brutal. Scouting it out. Items. Gets the Cloak of Flames. That would be a fantastic item from Tauren Chieftain, for example. I'm not quite sure how happy the Undead is going to be about that. Would have probably loved something very different here. Experience claimed, and that's level 4 and level 3. Double upgrade for him, double level up. Nice kill on the Raider here as we are having Grubby moving in immediately. Once again, the silence on the Tauren Chieftain, not using the Potion of Invulnerability just yet to break through the silence. And the attack on the Raider, not successful here. But here comes the attack from Grubby, and he is getting another stomp in, but only hitting one of the skeletons here. So Grubby actually in a bit of a pickle here. Also not too many headhunters with the army just yet, so can't capitalize on the Flute of Accuracy as much as he probably wanted to just yet. Still trying to force that fight here, but the level ups that the Undead just got give him a huge boost. Could use the Scroller of the Beast as well. There's no Dispel on the side of Grubby as we see, and another grunt goes down. Good War Storm from the Tauren Chieftain though, but still on level 2. Only has the Storm on level 1. But the focus onto the Lich. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability already used. The Hex on the Death Knight, trying to get the kill here. But here comes the Coil, saving it for now. Shadowhunter also in trouble. Lone HP, had to use the Potion of Invulnerability. Another one being used here on the Tauren Chiefs. Grubby needs to be really careful. Both of his heroes are extremely low here. He's struggling. 43 supply for Happy, 47 for Grubby. But Grubby on the run right now, trying to escape here. All of the heroes low. Another Coil coming through, taking the grunt out. But at least the heroes stay safe for the time being. No expansion attempt yet on either side, but Grubby definitely struggling a bit in that fight, having massive problems with those heroes, keeping them alive as well, but managing to do so, not losing a single one. But of course the timing of the attack was a bit unfortunate for the Orc. If he just doesn't hit it a bit sooner, or if he maybe gets the last hit in with a Blade Master onto the Rock Golem, then there's a very good chance that he can take that fight with initially at least that Leech still being on level 2 and the Death Knight being on level 3, and that would have been fantastic for him. But as it happens, it wasn't quite the case here. Very aggressive forward shop already being built here, as we have an expansion attempt from Happy. Already scouted out, and so far, yeah, that shop is not gonna come through, makes it a bit more difficult for him. Here comes the Dust of Appearance, good hits against the Fiend. Blade Master needs to be cautious though, has plus 16 damage by now, and we're still seeing him with the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. That's at least one that he has here. Could use that in the fight as well, but Happy defending his expansion. And right now, this puts a time on it. Grubby knows that he needs to make a move. He can't allow that for too long to be the case. Goes in. Great War Stomp once again. The focus on the Lich right away as the Blade Master's just hacking away, trying to put the Lich and transform it into minced meat. Not quite working out yet, but still the focus on it. Coil after coil coming through here, and we're seeing the Banshees also attack as they're just spreading the curse through the Orc army. Ghouls moving in too, Happy defending whatever he can defend. Here, level 3 already on the Tauren Chieftain for another upgrade on the War Storm, trying to get that through another level up as the Shadowhunter hits 4 and tries to pull that through. Coil comes in, but the heal is a little bit too quick, and the Shadowhunter saves the Raider for now. 46 supply for Grubby. Happy sitting at 48 right now. Still the statues in the back, mining with only 2 Acolytes at this point. The base not just quite paying off for him just yet. Grubby does have 1 armor upgrade, an additional one. Decent armor for him now with the entire army, especially of course thanks to his devotion aura that he has. He has a mass amount of auras, by the way. It's actually insane. Warsong Battle Drums, devotion aura, endurance aura, and also the ranged aura with the Elarius Fruit of Accuracy, the True Shot aura. So he's playing 4 auras at this point. A lot of them still a little bit low. I mean, the Tauren Chieftain, of course, on level 3 did skill into Warstomp, so that's 1. But absolutely fantastic if it comes to a late game scenario here. And Grubby has an expansion on his own by now. So with both of them now looking at 2 bases, Grubby is looking at a scenario where if he can force fights around, let's say, 80 supply, his auras are going to give him a huge boost in that battle. And to be honest with you, those heroes aren't anything to sneeze on either. You look at the level 4 Shadow Hunter, level 3 Torrent Chieftain already, more and more potions of Lesser Invulnerability. And Happy doesn't have the Dark Ranger on 3 just yet. The Lich is on level 3, but doesn't it 4, so there's an experience lead for the Orc. There's absolutely no question about that. It's a great position for Grubby to be in if it comes to these late game fights. And Grubby currently still looking at 50 supply, so he's focusing a lot of his income onto items, which is absolutely understandable. You can't lose these heroes. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability is crucial if you're going up against an Undead here. But if you can get that big army, it would be great for Grubby. Right now the focus again is on items. The problem for him is he doesn't have any Dispel. So he's going up against this Banshee strategy now multiple times in a row, but he does not really feel that he has to go into any kind of setup where he adds Shadow War, where he adds Shamans to the shooter mix. Once again, already the attack on the Lich, heavy focus on him. Hex on the Death Knight is always an option. Coil comes through though and saves him. That Frost Armor is fantastic. And the shift towards the Dark Ranger, Happy loses it. Dark Ranger down, a fantastic Hex timing here on the Death Knight, denying him the coil, and that was absolutely fantastic here from a timing perspective from Grubby, and it forces the TP from the Death Knight as well. No kill onto the Troll Berserker. Again, no Shadow Walkers here on the side of Grubby, so that curse is just hitting continuously. But that kill against the Dark Ranger was great. The focus on the Lich first, focusing the attention there. Coil comes through, the immediate shift onto the Dark Ranger, and then the Hex just in time to deny the coil, working around the cooldown extremely well here. Orc player with a great kill. 49 supply for him. 55 for Happy, who has to get the Dark Ranger back. Could get access, of course, to the tavern and try and buy it back here, but it takes quite a bit of money for that, and Happy doesn't really have too much to spare, so he's rebuilding it in the altar. And again, Grubby immediately on the shop. And just look at that inventory. He's adding up on it. He's actually now heading straight into Potion of Mana. He wants to have that available. We are seeing the Scroll of Healing. And he's continuing to invest his resources into items over passing into the low upkeep. And this is one of... Finally, a guy actually goes into the low upkeep here, but up to this point, only items. More potions of invulnerability, more potions of healing. Just having these heroes being insanely beefy. Bit of a scout for Happy here. Can't really do too much down here. Another attempt to kill some of those acolytes. Blade Master needs to be really, really careful here. Gets the healing wave through. And again, another snipe at the front. More ghouls coming in now as well. A bit of a meat shield here for that army. But immediately the Warstorm coming through as the Tower Chieftain enters the backline. Already Scroll of Speed being used by Grubby. Trying to just rush and micro his units away here. The TC in the thick of things. Just stomping away the entire time. The Curse doing work for Happy at least. But still, that Shadow Hunter is keeping everything alive here, still with the Scroll of Mana, with the Potion of Mana in his inventory, and we're also having, of course, one wave after another, bringing that Blade Master closer to level 5, where he can do even more damage. The Tyrant Chieftain a bit low, but another healing wave is going to be available in just a second. 57 supply for Grubby, 57 also for Happy. One hit after another coming in here. Kodobi is still the warrior available for it. Silence on the Blade Master, the Hex to avoid the coil, and the Blade Master walking away just barely. Grubby with a 6 save on his first hero here. Could try and move back in. Lich a little bit low, but Happy also buying a couple of items here. Having a Potion of Healing in the inventory of his Lich. Coil Nova again being used against Grubby's Kodo. One down, and immediately the Ghoul freed. Another one being attacked. Body blocking with the Death Knight as we speak. Grubby right now just rushing away. 61 supply for Happy. Grubby down to 50 once more. Coming to the shop. Trying to buy a few more items. Again, stomping, slowing down the progress of the Undead players. We are seeing Happy on the chase, saving the Kodo for now, but another healing wave comes through. Grubby again reproducing units here as we are seeing Happy already sitting on 63 supply, still with a Potion of Mana in the inventory of his Lich. I really, really like the way that Grubby is trying to use Hex and Warstorm to control the Death Knight though. He has saved several units and also his Blade Master now, but just dropping the Hex at the perfect moment in time. Not just simply spamming it out, but really trying to achieve something with the Hex timings here. Denying a kill. securing a kill for himself, setting it up, just making sure that the Death Knight has no chance of healing someone. But Happy is still doing extremely well in these fights. Banshees, 4 in number by now, still spreading the curse. Dark Ranger producing more and more skeletons as we speak, but here's the level 5 for the Blade Master. Silence again on the Torrent Chieftain. Already the backline being attacked, the ghouls just moving through all of those melee units straight into the range as we are seeing the Blade Master trying to get the Destroyer dropped. Does it also. Orb of Corruption allowing him to attack it straight away. And that's not the only thing. Look at the Dark Ranger just losing hit points. One crit after another coming in. Frost Armor on the Dark Ranger right now. Another coil also hitting home as we're seeing the statues falling one after another. Crit, crit, crit. But the misses coming in as well as the curse is doing so much work to deny the auto attack damage that Blade Master is missing the entire time. One crit after another. Banshee value right there for Happy. But that War Stomp hitting nearly the entire army of the Undead player, and Happy now dropping down to 54 supply. Grubby sitting at 50 himself. Blade Master again moving in. Torrent Chieftain still with the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability, trying to use it here as well as the Blade Master's trying to get a couple of hits in. Shadow Hunter with another healing wave coming through here. The Lich on the other hand hitting level 4 as we speak. More skeletons on the ground, can use even more Frost Armor, and the Blade Master, no potion on him. The Bladey about to fall here and goes down. Torrent Chieftain used the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability already earlier, couldn't use it here. Scroll of Speed being used as Grubby is on the run. Torrent Chieftain on level 4 any second, but Grubby is down to 37 supply, 49 for Happy. Once again trying to drop another hero here, using the Unholy Aura to just catch up with everything here, even pulling a few Acolytes by accident here. But you could see how much work these Banshees are doing in the fight. The Blade Master, so much damage output, but missing crit after crit because of the curse here. Fantastic play again by Happy. Both of them with great micro actually, but the Undead just coming through in the fight in the end. 47 supply, we're seeing 42 for Grubby. By no means has the Orc given up here, but it is not looking too pretty. Happy realizes that with the Blade Master down, he has an opportunity here, and he goes straight for that expansion. Even with the 4 auras that we have from Grubby, he is struggling against that setup. And especially, again, harping on it, but the Banshees are just so invaluable right now for Happy. The Torrent Chieftain, on the other hand, with massive damage in that backline. Hero levels right now that we're seeing with the Dark Ranger on level 3, scaling. Now not going into level 2 silence here, by the way, going for the 2 skeletons instead. And yeah, the expansion starting to drop, and that is of course the lifeline of Grubby. He needs to try and save this somehow, and it's not going to be easy. That Death Knight on level 5. I mean, the one saving grace is there's no town portal. If somehow he can set up a kill, he might be able to chase a few of these units down if he still has raiders. We have 5 Banshees by now. 5 Banshees with Master upgrade as well. Could even start and possess a couple of units here. Want the Kodo? Yeah, just go for it, buddy. But Grubby is definitely in a bit of a pickle here. Down to 35 supply against 55 right now. That's a 20 supply difference between the two. And he heavily has to rely on the Blade Master. Curse is already hitting. Curse the entire time. Happy even moving away a little bit. He interrupted mining for a long time. He can just dance around it time after time. Adds more ghouls to the mix now too. No upgrades on these units here. But the ghouls of course doing extremely well, going up straight against those few headhunters that are still here. And there's the town portal. That was, in my opinion, the one risk that Happy took, trying to go for an attack here. But now with the town portal in inventory, he can always use that as a panic button if need be, and is now fully willing to commit to the fight again. Here comes the curse on the Blade Master right away. Great critical though, 250 damage with an auto attack, and that Lich needed the coil desperately. But here comes the attack again, as with superior supply and numbers, Happy is moving into the fight. Level 4 on the Torrent Chieftain. Great stomp against the ghouls and the skeletons. The heal wave comes through. Coil, Nova, the TC doesn't have anything. Tries to rush away here. Is able to escape for now, but that's already the retreat that we're seeing. And he's actually possessing the Kodos. He's going for both of them. Has the aura now as well, possessing away 56 supply against 24. This is a foregone conclusion as Happy moves in to drop the expansion in this 4th game, and he is going to take a significant lead over Grubby unless we're going to see an incredible miracle unfold in front of us. This is going to be a 3-1 lead for the Undead player. Grubby trying to see if he can
can somehow get a flank and maybe drop a hero. It doesn't look likely. The TC about to fall goes down, the Orb of Corruption with a hit, and this has to be game. Grubby just trying to micro away with a Blade Master, but there is no hope left. Blade Master about to fall as well, low in HP, gets surrounded as the Potion of Invulnerability gets used at the last moment here. The Shadow Hunter also running out of mana, and this is going to be it as we're seeing 18 supply. The Blade Master falls. GG, well played, and Happy takes their 3-1 lead in the best of 7 series against Grubby. Game 5 in the series between Grubby and his opponent, and well, for the time being, we're actually seeing a 3-1 lead for Happy. The Undead player losing the initial map on Echo Isles, but performing strong right afterwards. Now we're finding ourselves on Turtle Rock, and we have Grubby up to the top left. The Orc player so far struggling against the Banshees in the micro from Happy in these late game scenarios. Down towards the bottom right of the map, we're now seeing Happy again crypt in graveyards, delaying that altar slightly as we've already seen before, therefore focusing in the early game a little bit more on creeping, not trying to interrupt his opponent necessarily. Turtle Rock is always one of those bit weird maps you need to double check. Does my opponent spawn cross position to me? Is it going to be a very aggressive game therefore? Or is it, yeah, close position, cross position? What exactly am I going to deal with? And it's going to change your early game quite significantly. Also one of the reasons why we're having Grubby now again optimizing his peon line here even a little bit. With the placement of the Altar of Storms and the Orc Burrow. Farseer again for him. Now, we've seen that approach now 2 times. He won with it on Echo Isles and he lost on Twisted Meadows with a Farseer strategy. Blade Master does a lot for him, but really one of the big problems is that a huge amount of the damage that he wants to put out with the Blade Master is always negated in the late game by the curse from those Banshees. And it's one of the reasons why you oftentimes see Spirit Walkers in the mix from an Orc player too, in a lot of matchups here, especially when you're trying, of course, to get that Dispel in. We have it a lot also against Night Elf, but here in this Undead setup, Grubby's strategy to focus on the Troll Headhunters in the late game with Shadow Hunter TC is quite successful, but hasn't really completely won me over yet against Banshees in the late game. Maybe you can add an additional tech, but again, it's tricky. You need to find those resources somewhere. But Grubby is already going for a very, very different approach here in game number 5, because we are seeing a super fast tech here with a Farseer and then into Barracks. I've actually been talking about this a bit earlier. If you guys remember when we were talking about the Farseer, I think it was on Twisted, that if you play with an FS and you try to apply early game pressure after taking your initial creep, you can go in a super fast tech with that too, and that's exactly what Grubby is doing here. He techs into Stronghold into tier 2 before he adds the Barracks, and especially on the map, that's going to work out for him as well. Now the one thing that I don't know 100%, because we're seeing the Scout now. There's a couple of variations of certain tournament maps where you can only spawn cross position, or there were in the past. I was for a second wondering if that might have been one that they play here, but that's not the case. Wolf scouts everything, sees there is no blight on the ground, and therefore, yeah, playing a normal style. And trying to actually take away now also the turtle here, the giant sea turtle. Happy is already moving over towards the right, and is double checking what's going on there, if he can maybe interrupt the Orc player, but that's not the case. So we're actually going to see an extra item with a Cloak of Shadows for Grubby, denying it to Happy. Good start for him. Taking that away, now starting with that harass to keep his own tech safe. Exactly what you would expect. Now the Cloak of Shadow is an item that you can't really do too much with. In the first night it still gives you some value because you can be of a nuisance, but it's going to be sold eventually. So definitely not quite the item that you want to have here, if you can. At the same time, let's see what's happening in the main base. Tech's not quite completed just yet, but adding a few more grunts, having the shop available too. Obviously Happy also tagging straight into the Necropolis to add the quick lich here. His strategy is not going to be changed anytime soon. It's actually one of the complaints that a lot of Undeads have, that they are very limited in the strategies that they can execute in most matchups, because they're heavily reliant on Fiends, and especially the statues, destroyers. That's just one of those things that you can't really get rid of. This one time, by the way, Happy doesn't bite dust. His opponent has a Cloak of Shadows and is using it already to hide that Farseer slightly. So yeah, bit of harass going on, a little skirmish between the two.
We have some players, some undead players that are trying to use different styles. You have, for example, Mad Frog that doesn't really enjoy playing Fiends too much, and he sometimes goes even into a Dreadlord first, but oftentimes at least attempts to use Ghouls and Gargs whenever possible, depending on the matchup. But it's definitely very, very tricky. So Undead are very much in a box with the amount of strategies that they can use, which is one of the reasons why we actually casted some of the replays earlier with Lex versus Death Note, for example, since that allowed for a very, very different strategy to come in, and it's always fun to see that. But at least here, Happy is relying on that Fiend style and is not going to change that MO anytime soon, especially since they're, of course, very successful with it. That Fiend down here, on the other hand, is already struggling, but the coil just in time. And again, resummoning the wolves just before they fall. We've been talking about this early. Denying experience is crucial, especially against an undead player. TC second, by the way. No Shadow Hunter. The immediate rush into the TC second for Grubby with a very, very fast tech into tier 2 for him, adding now the Beastry as well. Double Beastry, actually. It looks more and more like we're going to see maybe even a bit of a mass raider here for now. End snare, and the first raider immediately being used. Now again, if you go into such a quick tech, you have of course your raiders available so much quicker. And I've been talking on Twisted Meadows a bit how if you're going for a bit of a raider timing, you can really force fights around your opponent. And your goal is to keep him low in experience. So what Grubby is very likely going to try and do is catch Happy out on the map once he has the first few raiders in the mix, and then be very aggressive with that army, trying to force fights out of the undead player before he has anything significant set up, before there is an Orb of Corruption for him, before there are a lot of statues. And you can already see that Happy takes straight into the Black Citadel before he even adds a Slaughterhouse here. So he's going to add the Slaughterhouse afterwards. Prioritizes the hero though. But it will mean that we're going to see raiders before there are any kind of Orb of Corruption plays from the undead player, and most likely also statues. So with the first raider, you can immediately see the scouts. Scouting with the wolf, scouting with the raider out on the map. Where's Happy? Where's my opponent? Immediately trying to focus on that. And now finding it, and here comes the attack. And it forces the Death Knight to TP out right away. Happy knows completely well that with this timing, he has zero chance of making anything happen here. Super early tech from my opponent, Raider already out, goes straight for the ensnare, TP out before you lose anything. His Fiends were low to begin with, so he makes the perfectly right choice, just regroups in his own base, sacrifices the town portal, and rushes out. But now Grubby is trying to establish a bit of map dominance here, and has even Wind Riders in the mix as well. So he starts out with Raiders, and then switches into 2 Wind Riders. Now there have been a few attempts in the past as well to just fake out an opponent a little bit, get a few Wind Riders in, try and force a commitment, but in this case, with the early tech that we're seeing, Grubby is heavily committed now to Wind Rider strategy. And going up against Fiends right now. So from Happy's perspective, what he's going to try and attempt later is heavily rely onto his Unholy Aura and just like try and kite the Wind Riders. Go in with the Fiends, get the first wave of web through, and then immediately move away, get the second wave through, and then start attacking there. But already the attack. And if just look what's getting attacked here. There's no Wind Rider just yet. So currently Wind Riders are sitting up here, not being used for that attack, so he's not showing anything. He doesn't really allow Happy to adapt to that just yet. And Happy doesn't have web. So now it was only the attack against this. But now the question, does Grubby go in? And yeah, he indeed does. Shows the Wind Riders. Web is immediately started on the side of his opponent. But for the time being, Scroll of the Beast, perfect for him. Goes in, Death Knight surround, level 3 for him. Again, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have a town portal. And Death Knight nearly going down, barely saved, Potion of Healing used immediately. But the Fiends are now in trouble. 1 down, 4 Wind Rider are part of this. And he's starting to focus the rest down as well. Grubby with a massively aggressive play now that he has a superior attack over his opponent. Starts going for the Lich, barely coiled here. And of course, Web now being used, and Grubby moves away. Has done the damage. Moves away, loses 1 Wind Rider in the process, and immediately heads out. So far, so good for Grubby. I mean, by now, Happy, of course, has he knows at least what's coming. So he can start and try and adapt to it. Has Web active, but lost a fair amount of Fiends to this particular process. Level 2.5 Farseer and Tauren Chieftain. The Death Knight on level 3. Happy is sitting at 28 supply right now, though. Doesn't have too much, and Grubby still controls them. Could still add also, of course, a few Raiders here. A little bit curious if he goes and does that. Wind Riders for now, but if you can use Ensnare to at least force these fights, it's going to be great for him too. Stronghold tech, straight up into tier 3. Tauren Chieftain on 3. Farseer about to hit it as well. As an item, gets the Ring of Regeneration, and even a few scrolls for him right now. So for Happy, what we're going to see... Oh. Plus 21 damage Lich without an orb. Oh, this is a dream for Happy right now. Against Wind Riders, you need to rely on the Lich as a range damage dealer very heavily. And now he has that already with 21 extra damage. And once he has the Orb of Corruption, that's going to increase to 26. And there we have it. It's going to be a fantastic tool for him against those units. We're seeing Cutgas Pipe of Insight. Fantastic item now for Grubby. Gets the extra Brilliance Aura so that he has more mana available for the TC and also for the Farseer. And, of course, Focus Fire is going to be Grubby's friends throughout this entire battle. So Warstorm is going to be absolutely fantastic if you can lock someone down. Wind Riders everywhere. Happy on 34 supply against the 50 that we're already seeing on Grubby's end. And Grubby is just creeping, trying to take spot after spot in his own main base. We're seeing him now with the Envenomed Spears being researched on 3 as well. Goes straight into the Shadowhunter, this time as the 3rd hero. Tauren Chieftain already on nearly level 4, finds the Potion of Invulnerability as well, and looking over to the Farseer, we have him with a Potion of Lesser Invulnerability too. Well, not only finding the items, but also buying them at the shop again, heavily being aware of what's going on there. Dark Ranger, another damage output here, even Boots of Speed here for the Lich. Still doesn't have a town portal, so needs to be cautious with that. In the main base, no real adaptation outside of producing more fiends for this particular battle right now. We're seeing one Skull of Town portal for the Farseer still, and getting the Orgalord here now too. But Happy is already on the move. Happy is coming in. That Orgalord goes down though, and we're having a Claws of Attack plus 12. Great item, and also very good to deny that. Can you imagine that Lich with 38 damage? That would have been nuts already to begin with. That Augur Magi about to fall, gets the experience, alright, and also, of course, Rune of Healing here. Fight still going on, and he's actually starting to snipe here, trying to stay outside the range of the Fiends for the time being, but with the Shadowhunter coming in, there's a very good chance that Grubby is very happy to take that fight. 50 supply for him against the 45, Chain Lightning already rattling through. Silence, on the other hand, on the Tauren Chieftain, might have to use the Potion of Invulnerability, not dropping it just yet, moving away for now. And also saving the Shadowhunter here. Trying to get him together with the rest of the army here, but needs to be a little bit careful. Already moving in. Has the Tauren Chieftain still in a position where he can use that Potion of Invulnerability. Goes in silence on the hero. Not breaking through the silence just yet. Focus Fire started, but the Web of the Fiends also starting to take a little bit of an effect here. No kiting from Happy yet though. Not really using that Unholy Aura. Is not kiting away, but starting to drop low on the Fiends. Losing one. Level 4 for the Farseer. Goes in again for those backline heroes. Chain Lightning. Bam! Another Fiend down too low. Gets a 3rd and tries to go for the 4th. The reinforcements coming in as well, as we're seeing the Dark Ranger starting to fall a little bit low, but some of the Wind Riders are down and dropping. The Lich low on hit points as well, and we don't have a lot of mana left on that Death Knight. Needs to be careful here. Has 1 core left, that's all that he can afford right now, but the Destroyers at least getting good damage in against those Wind Riders, dropping some of them. Happy at 37 supply against the 46 that Grubby right now holds. Another Silence onto the Farseer. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability already being used here. Another coil onto the Lich to keep him in play, and that damage output from the Lich with the auto attacks just insane right now. Getting so much work done. Plus 26 Orb of Corruption as well. Tauren Chieftain moving away, still holding on to that Potion of Invulnerability right now, and Happy just chasing Grubby through the map at this point. But the hero levels for the Orc player just absolutely fantastic. Level 4 on 2 heroes, Shadowhunter still on 1, but Happy currently looking at a level 3 Lich, a level 1 Dark Ranger, and a level 4 Death Knight, so a slight advantage for the Orc. 47 supply against 35. Happy still not bringing the numbers in right now when it comes to supply. Losing basically every Fiend that he had in that last engagement. Great damage output from Grubby, and he's not hesitating to continue creeping. The same, of course, true also for Happy, who gets the Robe of the Magi. Fantastic for the Lich, actually. If he drops one of the items that he has, that would be another 6 damage plus an increase on the mana pool for the hero too. But we are seeing also more items coming in. This is a double Potion of Invulnerability now on the side of Grubby. great items for him to keep his hero safe. Now let's see what we're actually having happen with the items here. Really curious to see what exactly he's going to do. Is he going to keep it on the Dark Ranger? Is he just going to rely on that? An agility hero, by the way, not an intelligence hero. Or is he going to pass it over? The Dark Ranger gets a level 3 at this point, and Grubby still creeping his Tauren Chieftain. Huge priority on him, getting the Shadow Hunter even out of the way. He wants that level 5. Level 5 on the TC is just brutal. Ruined Bracers! Damn, son! This is brutal. That TC is going to wreck. Ring of Regeneration, Ruined Bracers, full Potion of Invulnerability, Cut Gas Pipe. He is and also Gauntlets of Augur Strength. That guy is a beast. Level 5 on the TC would be an absolute field day for the Orc, and he can get it easily just by creeping the Giant Sea Turtle right here. Happy now on the move forward. He's at 46 supply right now. Has still the Robe of the Magi. He passed it over. He actually switched it out with 1 clause of attack. So now we're having huge range damage. But Grubby still on the creep. Has to move back, but he has level 5 on the Tauren Chieftain. Has level 5 on the hero. Tries to take down one of the Wind Riders and does get it. The coil barely in range, but he's able to pull through here. Gargantuan Sea Turtle being attacked, but in the meantime, Grubby is actually setting up an expansion with the Tiny Great Hall already. Going for the Expo here. Happy now, trying to get the item. Trying to get the experience. Gets Tomb of Strength and a Ring of Regeneration now for his efforts. But Grubby is looking at 46 supply versus 50 right now. But the expansion is going to be in play any moment right now. Just needs to get the Pians in play. Has fortified watchtowers here. And now Happy sees it and knows exactly what's up. He's trying to get an expansion by himself, but he needs to somehow try and break through this, and it's not going to be easy by any means. Grubby's coming in with a level 5 Tauren Chieftain, and that guy is a monster. Storm, yeah, War Storm being used, goes in, heavy focus fire, even with the Frost Armor that he brings in. Can't really do too much yet, drops 50% HP, but has the Ring of Regeneration, which is going to help him a bit with this. Another Stomp, another focus. Keeping those Wind Riders away, at least for the time being. Doesn't really want to sacrifice too much here. Quick scout up at the top, still a Forest Troll Berserker here, so nothing being snuck in here. Both of them active, just double checking what's going on here. And Grubby trying to use that Brilliance Aura already a bit, and of course also the Clarity Potions that he has, using those to make sure that he gets more and more Chain Lightnings through to keep the Undead low, buy himself a little bit more time to capitalize on that expansion. Starting to move in for now, but yeah, Happy just setting this up. Trying to see if he can break through that, but those towers are sure a pain in the butt right now. 51 supply for Grubby. Low upkeep for him. Happy staying on no upkeep for now. 49 for him for the time being. No upgrades, by the way, again, for the Undead player. You see that a lot. Undead's not really investing too much into upgrades outside of the Undead Mirror. There's a couple of matchups where you can pull that off, but here comes the attack. Grubby moves out and gets, oh my god, gets the Fiend just before the coil is in. Oh, the Lich as well, just barely using that quick potion of lesser invulnerability, and we have another Fiend going down. Fantastic stomps coming from the Tauren Chieftain here, and you can't nuke that bastard. That bad boy is just ripping through you. Rune Bracers in the inventory. What you gonna do? Potion of Mana as well. The Tauren Chieftain just going bananas here. The focus shifting onto the Farseer instead, rushing away with a scroll of speed. The Shadow Hunter also just getting out of here. Is like, okay, dude, you got this. TC solo going in and just wrecking as the Wind Riders are getting the damage in. Do you see Fiends? I don't see any. You know why? They're all dead. Exactly. Ripped apart by the Tauren Chieftain and the Wind Riders. Happy just having nothing anymore. 39 supply for him against 59 for Grubby. Grubby has taken damage, of course, on those Wind Riders and moves back immediately to heal them back up. But at this point in time, Happy just desperately trying to get a little bit of MTA in. The heroes is what he relies upon right now, but that Tauren Chieftain is an absolute monster. That guy is hitting like a truck and goes in with Stomp after Stomp, just wrecking through those backdown units and getting the Fiends destroyed in the process as well. Same time now, getting more mana into play, relying on the Brilliance Aura, relying on the Clarity Potions, having the Endurance Aura on level 2 as we speak, the Stomp on 3, just an absolute gift for the Orc player now. 59 supply, Happy sitting at 46, so far in the best of 7, Happy has taken the lead, but Grubby by no means is giving up here. Currently trying to make this a much closer series, close the gap, taking the second victory for himself. Nova being used once more, but those Wind Riders are sure doing work.
more the potions of invulnerability in the inventory. Has again the mana potion for the TC. That guy is just gonna stomp 6 days to Sunday, and it's gonna be a party. There is an expansion for Happy as well, but then again, keep in mind that we are having a Farseer in the game, and that Farseer, especially when he hits level 5, is easily able to just harass this expansion with wolves over and over again. We have seen previously the priority of Grubby into the Chain Lightning on level 5 as the level 3, but if you're up against an exponent expansion, there's always the option of going into level 3 wolves, have the invisibility, and start to severely attack those acolytes and take them down. Again, resummoning the wolves, denying experience to the Undead player. Very important now to also double check the Shadow Hunter, and that is going to give him level 3. Level 2 healing wave available now for Grubby. It's a dream come true for the Orc player here. Currently in the main base, no additional upgrades being researched, but he has a fantastic army, nearly sitting at 70 supply. Happy is sitting at 60. Has a few fiends in the mix right now, 3 in total, but starting to rely more on those destroyers, the statues that he has as well. Still guarding that expansion, by the way, putting some ziggurats into place, but trying to make sure that there are no additional wolves rushing in. And Grubby is feeling completely comfortable right now. Starting to move out, has the additional items, Scroll of Healing, Potion of Healing, Potion of Lesser Invulnerability, Potion of Invulnerability. He has everything, and he's starting to force these fights. The TC gets silenced, waits it out. Here come the first few webs. The focus onto the Shadow Hunter, great play here, but the Hex comes through, the Stomp as well, and get wrecked, son. He's down, and that is a massive, massive problem for the Undead. This is the beginning of the end. The Lich about to fall, the TC just wrecking everything, and this is game GG. Well played, as we have Happy taking the loss, Grubby taking the win, and now a 3-2 in this best of 7 series as we're heading into game number 6. Game number 6, everyone. Grubby taking the last game on Turtle Rock against Happy here, and therefore closing the distance a little bit in the score between the two of them in this best of 7. Now keep in mind, Happy could have ended the series now already with a victory on Turtle Rock. In this game on Concealed Hills, he's starting all the way up to the top right. And, well, right now we're going to find out if he can actually close this out. Another match point for the Undead player. Dominant currently on the North Rand ladder whenever he actually plays, and we're gonna see if he can get another victory in. Same build for him again, the delayed altar. Only once in this series so far has he deviated from that, and that was on Twisted Meadows, where he went for early aggression with the Death Knight, trying to get it out very early and disrupting the creep pattern and also the advanced shop that we saw from Grubby. Outside of that, the same pattern for him. And Grubby so far tinkering around a lot with like either Blade Master as the first hero or going into the Farseer. Very, very fast tech on Turtle Rock as well, starting to go into Wind Rider with a tech before Barracks, but now relying again on the Blade Master. And the strategy with the Wind Rider definitely catching Happy a little bit off guard. It forced him into a lot of early TPs, a lot of fiends were taken down by Grubby. It was a very nice aggression from the Orc player, and then the transition into an expansion he safely secured with those 3 heroes and the 2 watchtowers that he established early on. Worked extremely well for him. Happy was never really able to set that army up that he relied on so many times in the past, granted against more of a ground-focused army, but especially in the games before, what worked out for Happy quite well were those Banshees in the late game that made also it very difficult for the Blade Master to have a huge impact in the game. So right now, Death Knight again coming in as the first hero for him. And let's see how that's going to work out in this game. I expect that he's going to try and maybe scout a little bit earlier what exactly Grubby is doing. But outside of that, I would think that he is going into the exact same composition that we've seen in the previous games. So I'm more so interested to see how exactly Grubby reacts in this game right now and what kind of changes he's going to make. Yeah, more so than what I'm thinking about his opponent. Grubby with a bit of scouting here, apparently. Okay, so yeah, even gets a little bit of wood in, but just like double checks, I would assume, to see if that Death Knight maybe moves down, if there's early aggression again. That's not quite the case. Instead, we're having the Blade Master getting immediately rid of the Scroll of Town Portal and Circle of Nobility. Now that's one of the moves that you see from Orc players a lot, sometimes even Undead players, make that you sell the early Town Portal, you feel safe with the strategy that you execute. From an Orc perspective, it's mostly when you're playing with the Blade Master, because you know that through Windwalk you're gonna have no problem walking away from an opponent early on, and you don't really plan to be out on the map with too many units anyways that could get caught. You're not going to lose that early grunt against a Fiend or two plus a Death Knight. Very unlikely to happen. And your Blade Master is going to start and harass an Undead player quite significantly, which normally creates enough space for you to safely get your Shadow Hunter to the next level. So if you actually move in and you sell the early Town Portal, you can immediately buy a Circle of Nobility. You have extra money to spend as well that you can then invest into healing selves and into Clarity Potions. Finds a second Circle too, so great stats item already for Grubby in the early game here. And now with level 2, with crits available, we're going to see him very likely going to go for very early harass here as well. Maybe a little bit more creep too, but yeah. Taking down those critters again, and that's something that we talked about earlier. Against an Undead, always a good move if you have the extra time to spare, just because he will have a tougher time using those Rod of Necromancy charges to drop something. The early Voodoo launch here too, well, not early, but like the forward Voodoo launch. Scouting tool for him, putting him in a position where he has an easier access to those items, but of course exposing that shop too. It's now a scouting tool for him, and at the same time it's an anchor point on the map where he can easily move back and get a few items without having to retreat completely to his own base. But at the same time, it is something that can be sniped by Happy in the long run, so he has to be careful about this. Here you can, by the way, see Happy immediately killing the creep as well, and that's exactly why, as an Orc player or any other race, you oftentimes can take that out and try to just limit the options of the underplay. Another big potential creep later on for items, but using, in this case, Fountain of Health, first of all, and Happy still creeping here. When it comes to items, he didn't really get anything too crazy just yet. Now the Ring of Protection, very likely going to be sold in the long run. Mantle of Intelligence for the Lich. Going to see here the Wand of Illusion, probably going to be used for scouting as well. But for now, a lot of aggression already coming, and Grubby trying to get some experience here, just taking down those skeletons, and that nearly brings the Blade Master to level 3, but a good surround by Happy onto the Grunt. One down and a level 3 for the Blade Master as he gets a few more crits in and gets those shots fired. We're having still a bit of scouting with that Wand of Illusion down here to the bottom right, seeing if maybe there's a very fast expansion coming in from Grubby, which is not the case. Tier 2 tech nearly completed now. Death Knight immediately using the Dust of Appearance to make sure that he can get that extra coil in. But the decay isn't level 3 just yet, so you don't have that level 2 coil, and we have double Beastry again built with the Shadow Hunter produced right away. So not that early for... good kill by Grubby again. Gets an early Fiend, like perfect for him here. But the Death Knight is on level 3, so the coil is 2, needs to be careful. There's still more than enough health to sustain himself through that. Keep in mind, the coil is still going to... There is going to be a damage reduction because of the inherent damage reduction you get from a hero, so only 150 damage gets through onto the hero here, so he needs to be careful with that on level 2 coils. DK still in a position where if he gets a bit more damage, he can try and pull that off. So against units you get the full damage through, which is 200 on level 2, but the magic reduction is always a bit of an issue. Quick tier tech, tier 3 tech, getting the Lich in play. Same time the Shadow Hunter is now of course entering the stage, and Happy sitting at 30 supply against the 36 for Grubby here. None of them with an early expand or any of these shenanigans. Wind Rider play once more. But still, it's a little bit of a different strategy of what Grubby used the last game. Keep in mind, this time he actually produced the barracks before he went into the tier 2 tech, so he doesn't have the Wind Riders as quickly. It's not as much of a surprise to Happy either. And we're having at the same time also no Torrent Chieftain as the level 2 hero. Instead he goes into the Shadow Hunter first, and Stomp was actually a massive tool in the last engagement between the two players on Turtle Rock that really gave Grubby the victory there. The Hex and then the Stomp against the Death Knight combined with the Focus Fire that we saw from the Wind Riders took him down very quickly. So definitely a different approach here from Grubby with a slightly different build, but still trying to be aggressive on the map right now. Augur Lord baited over and immediately being hexed, so he's trying to snipe him first of all, getting a bit of an easy creep in. Undead player is far away from that spot, so that's not going to be a problem for him whatsoever. And a good surround added to that too. And a nice Claws of Attack plus 12. 16 damage on that Blade Master. Really, really good setup here for Grubby now with that BM. Meantime, we also are seeing Happy creeping, and he gets a plus 9 Claws of Attack here towards the top. Tomb of Agility. It's still amazing to me how many tombs are oftentimes just left behind by players. Not quite the case here. So, yeah, baits a few of the units over again, trying to go for that Red Drake. The problem is that we're actually seeing Grubby starting to come in now too. Sorry, Happy. And yeah, Grubby will have to move away from this. The Drake actually starting to focus on the Undead player instead. The aggro here. So a little bit of unexpected help that Grubby gets with this particular fight. 44 supply against 39. But Happy is definitely being a little bit more aggressive now in this game. Already has his own tier 3 take nearly completed. Is also looking at statues coming in. Very different how this plays out compared to the last game. Keep in mind, on Turtle Rock, Grubby was able to force the early retreat, the early town portal through the raiders that he initially built, and then he attacked the main base with a Raider Wind Rider composition and was able to snipe several of the fiends. Happy really struggled to have a significant fiend count available for himself for a long, long time. Not quite the case here. Approaching the supply limit on 50 for both of them now. The Shadow Hunter in an attempt to get on level 3. Blade Master still harassing as much as he can. Buying the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability too. And double checking here at the fountain. And this is actually going to be a really interesting fight. Because the Blade Master knows exactly what's happening here. Here's the web already, and Grubby wants to interrupt that. He's already on the move. Blade Master is going to try and get the experience and the item. Second web comes through. The coil item is taken and the experience as well. He gets both. And that's a fantastic item right now to take away from an Orc. It's not really too helpful at this point in time for Happy himself, and he sells it immediately, getting the Scourge Bone Chimes here. But it would have been great for the Blade Master, and it could have also triggered a switch into different units later on in the game with a few more Raiders and also Grunts for Grubby. So good to take it away here, and the experience, of course, fantastic for Happy as well, who now gets that Lich closer to level 2, having a bit of body blocking happening actually against the Shadow Hunter and the Grunt in particular. 48 supply for Grubby, Happy sitting at 47. The Hex comes in, and the immediate focus again with the Wind Riders, but needs to stay out of the reach of those fiends, or the web will definitely put him into a position where he has to TP or fight. One of the two, and that's exactly what Happy wants right now. He wants to force him into the fight here. The Grunt is going to fall, but a counter damage attempt here by the Blade Master, who moves in right away to try and take down that fiend. Shop exposed, and that's the problem that we've been talking about earlier. Wommel gets produced in the main. We're also seeing the tech straight into tier 3 for Grubby, who's of course eager to add a third hero again. That Torrent Chieftain with a Warstorm would be fantastic for late game control in those fights. But right now, Happy is way more aggressive on the map than he was in the last game. Has a significant army and is going to try and use that. We have no town portal here, by the way, still for Grubby, and that's a massive problem if you are on the map with Wind Riders. If web comes through at any point, he's going to be forced to fight. And that's something that he needs to avoid right now. Moves away immediately, still has the Scroll of Speed, so could always use that if he has to. Blade Master still in play here, tries to get a few hits in. With the last hit, gets one. And immediately the Shadow Hunter trying to focus on a creep pattern again. He wants level 3. He needs that healing wave on level 2 to make sure that he has to sustain during these fights. And he's going to get it here for sure. In the meantime, we have already the Envenomed Spears being used. No third hero just yet. Would put him into the oversupply as well. Straight into the low upkeep, so he doesn't want to hit that just yet. Scout already, as the next Red Drake is being attacked. And he gets, again, the Drake and the item. And gives the boots of Elven Skin right over to the Dark Ranger. The agility-based hero gets another big boost when it comes to the damage output. And already back to business, Blade Master. Level 4, steals one creep away. Doesn't get the item though, doesn't get the big one. Gonna be happy about that. And Grubby just retreats for now. No Dust of Appearance anymore on Happy's side. The Shadow Hunter, in the meantime, has reached level 3 and is trying to get a bit more experience for himself. Still the Scroll of the Beast in the inventory. But by now, 49 supply for Grubby, and Happy sitting on 50 and actually expanding towards the top left, putting a Haunted Goldmine and another Necropolis in play. And keep in mind, for Grubby, there's a lot on the line here. He needs to win this one if he wants to force the final map. Happy, on the other hand, has that match point. If he takes this one, he is the victor of the best of 7. Having for now Orb of Lightning in the inventory, Talisman of Invasion for him too. No third hero. Just focusing now also on the Warsong Battle Drums, accumulating a bit more money and trying to get that Shadow Hunter onto the next level. It's not only important for the healing wave on level 2, you also want to make sure that you have that level 2 Hex, of course. He's still playing without a Town Portal though, so it's really crucial for him that that Blade Master has vision on the Undead army. That's one of the reasons. You want to try and steal experience away, steal items, you're trying to interrupt the creep pattern, and at the same time it provides the space that you need to safely creep that Shadow Hunter without a Town Portal. But Grubby, in this case, is now heavily reliant on being successful in the first fight that he takes. Without a Town Portal, he doesn't have the option to retreat. So he's just trying to get that through. He has enough money right now to also go into the low upkeep. Doesn't make that play just yet. Takes some of the Acolytes down, but Happy has the Banshees again. And this is something that he was lacking in the last game. So once again with the Temple of the Damned and getting Banshees for Curse. Blade Master, not looking too bad here. Plus 19 damage is actually pretty significant, so that's a huge boost for him, and that's without the aura as well. So once that we have a Kodo Beast in play, that's going to be increased even more, and the critical hits are going to wreck. But Grubby now trying to get an expansion of his own as he realizes that it's going to be tough for him to take down the base towards the top left side. Not going into the low upkeep just yet, and Happy actually has already crossed that line. He's at 61 supply and is trying to move in right now. No upgrades here either. Scout immediately, and now the Tiny Great Hall. And this is really the moment of truth, because Happy is already on the move. 59 supply for him, Grubby on 50, and here comes the Undead player. With a Potion of Greater Mana in the inventory as well. Dust of Appearance, 1 charge still left for him, and even a Scroll of Protection. There's no Dispel, Scroll of Protection already used, and this is do or die right now. Grubby has to defend. He's currently outnumbered by his opponent. Needs to try and get a kill in here. Critical hits already starting to come in against the Death Knight as he's getting hexed right away, but the Banshee in the background dropping that curse onto the Blade Master. The web is through an immediate focus, and its Scroll of Protection is a massive problem for the Orc player. Destroyer's joining the fun as well, as the Lich barely survives with a quick Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. The coil comes in, and Grubby is losing unit after unit. GG as Happy takes the victory, and takes the victory in the best of 7 series against Grubby.